It's a slightly earlier date than normal, but it's time to go racing. Welcome to the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. It's round 3 of Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Endurance Cup. It's also round 3 of the Intercontinental GT Challenge, powered by Pirelli. It's the 75th running of this fantastic event. 70 cars set to do battle, drivers from 14 nations about to go toe-to-toe in what promises to be an absolutely superb race. It is absolutely wide open. Picking a winner is well nigh impossible, and the weather is inevitably going to play a part in what turns out to be always a thrilling race. It's the biggest and best GT3 race in the world. GT3 racing is a global phenomenon. There is the American Championship within Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS. There's also the European Series, there is Australia, and there is Asia as well. And as far as Europe is concerned, the Endurance Cup began at Monza and has since been to Paul Ricard. After Spa, there is the Nürburgring, and we also have Barcelona before the end of the season. Earlier on in the week, the cars took part in the traditional parade into the town, and this was an opportunity for, unusually, race cars to be on the road, but perhaps more importantly, a chance for the fans, young and old, to see their favourite cars and their favourite drivers. GT3 and GT4 cars making their way into town, and the fans have come out in big numbers to cheer them to the echo. They were led from the circuit down to the town. That was where the drivers' briefing took place, but there was also plenty of time for autographs, for posters to be signed, and for the drivers to enjoy themselves on the road, with lots of enthusiastic fans lining the route. All part and parcel of the atmosphere and the build-up to the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa, something that makes this race unique.
It's incredible. There are so many people. I think record-breaking crowd this weekend is expected. It's so cool just to drive a GT3 car into a town. It's every time a very cool experience.
You feel the vibe, you feel how excited everyone is for this race. It's once in a year where everyone comes here, and yeah, it's the best drivers, best teams in the world. I'm so excited, so yeah, can't wait to get going.
I think it's the 7th or 8th time already that I'm doing this, and it's an amazing feeling to be back at Spa, to meet the fans that will come and cheer for us later on in the week. For sure, it's a special feeling to be here. It's a special race, and we're all looking forward to go racing for 24 hours.
Over 7 kilometres long, the Spa-Francorchamps circuit is one of the best. The cars will start near the endurance pits and dive downhill through Eau Rouge, climb up Radion towards Les Combes, and then tip over the brow into Bruxelles, plunge downhill towards Pont, speed building before the little chicane at Piff Paff, the double right through Campus and the Cours Paul Frère, up towards Blanchimont, and then stand on the brakes for the chicane. More acceleration, first gear for Lassour's hairpin, and that is a lap of Spa. It is a very busy grid looking down then on the circuit here at Spa-Francorchamps, ready for the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. Welcome everybody to what promises to be, as ever, an enthralling race. We have got a 70-car grid. We have an entry list dripping with absolute star names, no question about it. And this promises to be another absolutely outstanding race. The 75th running of the 24 Hours of Spa, and the field will be starting behind the safety car due to the fact that we've had an awful lot of rain over the course of the morning, and so, as I say, the cars are going to be released from behind the safety car. The race will begin at 4:30, and we'll be on the grid very shortly to hear from some of the drivers, some of the personalities before the race gets underway here now in the sunshine. Now, a little earlier, there was a minute's silence on the grid in memory of Delano Van Toff, who was killed earlier today in the Formula Regional race. And the teams gathered and the fans gathered as well to respect him, to pay their condolences, and to respect a minute's silence in memory of Delano Van Toff. So the grid is now formed, and you can see just how busy it is down there. Everybody milling around the cars in this 45-degree formation. Then they'll slot into line once the cars are released. Gemma Scott and Amanda Busick are going to be on the grid and patrolling the pits. And up in the booth, David Addison and John Watson. And John, you can tell it's your moment because the sun is shining and it's going to shine on the righteous.
Well, how appropriate is it after a morning of just virtually non-stop rain? The sun is actually coming out for a race that's going to get underway in around about 25 or so minutes. And while the racetrack is still wet, if the sun remains out, it'll not take very long before we get back to dry running conditions. So I'm assuming that everybody who did their exploratory laps would have done them on a set of wet weather tyres. Whether they'll run those tyres when this race goes green, don't know, but certainly it's going to be a close call.
People don't know what to wear at the moment, whether to wear shorts or waterproofs. The weather is becoming very fickle indeed. But here at Spa, we are looking forward to a fantastic race. With 70 cars set to do battle, there is going to be action across all of the classes. Let's start in Pro, where any grade of driver is eligible to fight for the win overall. Last year's victors were Mercedes drivers, Danny Jonquidea, Jules Gounon and Raffaele Marciello. Jonquidea splits to a different team, but still a Mercedes driver for this year. So Jules Gounon and Raffaele Marciello team up with Timur Bogoslawski as they try to repeat their win.
It's always nice to be back in Spa. Last year we did, really well after a few years of being close to win the race. Last year we finally made it. I don't know if someone in the past won twice in a row, so we know it's not easy, but we will try our best and we'll see.
BMW as a brand has a really good record in the 24 hours of Spa, and in Fanatec GT it was this Rover Racing BMW that won the opening race at Monza and comes here as the Endurance Cup Championship leader. Philippe Eng is confident.
I think we're actually leading the Endurance Cup, so that's a good sign that we did a decent job in the first two races. Together with the team, I think we did very good steps in winter testing. We prepared really well. It's a nice moment, but the season is still long and the biggest race is ahead of us.
12 months on from his Spa 24 Hours debut, it is a different Valentino Rossi. He's a more confident driver, he's a more accomplished driver, having had that podium at Brands Hatch in the Sprint Cup earlier on in the season. He's in the BMW, not the Audi, and he's looking for a good result.
This weekend and this race is special, is the big one, is the most important of the season. And it's incredible because you have more than 70 cars in the track, and also because the track is fantastic, is for sure the best track for race with cars in the world. So we try to be ready because this weekend the weather is a little bit up and down, so we hope that we can have as much as possible of a dry race, and we see.
Lamborghini always seems to come here with good pace, but go away without the results. They're always really short on luck. For this year, it's the new version of the Huracan, and let's see whether that changes the brand's fortunes. Mirko Bortolotti hopes so.
It's the first time we come with the Evo 2. Obviously, from outside, if you look at the car, it looks quite similar to the previous one, but it's a completely different car, and we're looking forward to do the first time the 24 hours with the Evo 2. Statistically, Spa has never been great for us in terms of race results. The pace has always been there, so I hope that we can show that pace for 24 hours and be up there at the end.
Ferrari won the Le Mans 24 hours. Ferrari won the Nürburgring 24 hours. What price the triple by winning the CrowdStrike 24 hours of Spa as well? Antonio Fuoco then, third last year, has high hopes for this season in the new 296.
Last year was a really tough race, but at the end we finished P3, so we were quite happy with the podium last year. Now coming from this race again with the new car 296, we hope for a better result. We know it's going to be tough, but we try to do our best.
You can never rule out Porsche in a 24-hour race, and of course Porsche here, like many of the other brands, not only for Fanatec GT points, but IGTC points as well. For Manthey Racing, Lawrence Van Thor, home hero, is one of the three drivers pitching for a win.
It's always great to come back here. For Kevin and me, we have to adapt a bit, coming from LMDH the whole season. It's quite a step back to this. But besides that, I think we have a very good chance. Imam Manthey is always there, it's a very professional team. We have a good lineup. I think Porsche looks to be competitive, so everything's there to have success.
Audi is here with a bigger presence than we've seen for a number of seasons, and the brand is eager to recapture honours in the 24 hours of Spa. Calvin van der Linde, for example, is not just here to make up the numbers.
I wouldn't come here if I didn't have a realistic chance to do something. So when Share Sport called me, obviously with a great lineup, I was definitely interested. So looking forward to it. I think we come in as the underdogs, which is always, I think, kind of an advantage because nobody really has us on their radar. You know, obviously it's the seasoned campaigners that are on everyone's radar, and maybe we can sneak under the radar, and hopefully the last 2 hours we can pop up a surprise or two.
The classes, such as Pro-Am, Gold, Silver and Bronze, all offer fascinating driver combinations. In Pro-Am, you can have a Platinum and 2 Bronzes. And one of the drivers to watch is the event sponsor, CrowdStrike CEO George Kurtz, who comes here off the back of being the Pro-Am winner in LMP2 in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. He's looking to continue what has been already a fantastic season for him.
We're excited to be back. Obviously, we're the feature sponsor this year. Couldn't be more excited. It's such a prestigious event, and it really is the creme de la creme of GT racing. Like any endurance race, you got to be there at the end. You got to just make laps and stay out of trouble, and I think we've got a pretty good team, so hopefully we'll be able to fight for the win at the end of the race.
In the Gold Cup, you can have 2 gold-graded drivers and 1 silver amongst your 4, and it is here that you could have a real dark horse, especially under the wave-by regulation that we'll discuss later within this year's event. What about the Boutsen VDS Audi then? It's been a very competitive car all season so far, and in Aurélien Panis, the team has a really quick young driver.
Yeah, I feel good, to be honest. Yeah, it's a home race for the team also with Boutsen VDS, so really looking forward for this race. It will be really hard, but we are ready. We have a really good lineup, really good team, so I hope we will be able to fight for the victory in Gold Cup, but we'll push hard for that.
In the Silver Cup, it is silver-graded drivers to the fore. The young guns, the stars of the future of international GT racing. And here, again, there is a very large and very competitive entry. It's good to see Bullet Racing back, and good to see the Aston Martin brand represented on the grid. And the star driver in number 33 is going to be the Canadian Jeff Kingsley.
Been here last year, obviously, in a different car, but this year with the Bullet Racing team in Aston Martin Vantage GT3 cars. So hopefully I can bring some of my experience to the table here, especially night driving as well. It's unfamiliar territory for my teammates, so it's our hope that we make it to the end here and have good pace as well. Consistency is key, and we just got to stay out of trouble too, and hopefully we can bring it to the other brands and get an Aston Martin up front.
And you can expect a great fight in the Bronze Cup as well, where you can have platinum and silver-graded drivers, but you must have, of course, 1 bronze. Honours last time out at Paul Ricard went to the Haupt Racing team, and player-manager Hubert Haupt is not only looking for another victory within the season, but using all of his experience over many decades of international racing.
Well, as you get points, 6 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, the biggest goal is to finish the race and to collect points at the end. If we win, would be fantastic, but if we come top 3 and if we manage not to crash the car, it would be a really nice result.
We're getting closer then to start time. We're about 15 minutes away from the start of the race. There'll be no formation lap. The race will start when the cars move away from the endurance pits. The start line there for ceremonial purposes. The end of the race will be at the Formula 1 pits, but also they will then continue around La Source to take another checkered flag for historical purposes coming down the hill. It's a fascinating qualifying into Superpole, and Matteo Cairoli's Porsche is on pole position. Matteo Cairoli is with Amanda Busick.
Let the record book show there is a bronze on pole for the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa, and it was set by that guy, Matteo Cairoli. And when you think of the sense of pride within this team of having this honor, talk about the level of that within these guys.
Well, first of all, it was totally unexpected to be on overall pole position for the 24 Hours of Spa, but somehow we made it. So it's a great to be starting from the first position. So it's going to be probably a nightmare because, I mean, with the weather conditions, with 70 plus more cars fighting against us, it's not going to be easy, but for sure I have full trust in my team, in my teammates. We have a strong package, and I'm pretty sure we can go for a good result in the end.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, that car is graded bronze. Matteo Cairoli is a very accomplished Porsche racer. Part of the story is that the 4-part qualifying session began in the dry, and then it got wet, and the pro cars with only 3 drivers go out in Q2, 3 and 4, and therefore they missed the chance to have a dry running, and that's given us this very jumbled 20 that went into Superpole that was slugged out yesterday, and in turn that was a shuffled order again. Mauro Engel, he's always a dark horse when it comes to a race win in anything, sprint or endurance, and he's going to be a man to watch over the course of 24 hours, where keeping out of trouble and avoiding penalties as well is going to be all part and parcel of the car. Now, let's go back to the grid. Gemma has managed to find the Iron Dames winners last year.
Sarah, it was a fantastic qualifying for you guys with Iron Dames.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's the first time we start so high on the grid. We take it, as I say. I mean, we've been a bit lucky in quali, but we were there, you know, like we did a good job. And then Dory did fantastic in the Super Pole, and starting so close from Eau Rouge is actually a bit different from last year where we started all the way back there. It's going to be a tough race anyway. I mean, the quali we know will not have an influence on the final result, but the morale is in the positive, let's say.
Have a great one. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Now, we're getting news from the grid that certainly the top three, and probably many, many more after that, are going slicks. Even though it's been a wet road, then a greasy road, then a damp road, we're nearly dry, and if they can get the warmth into the tyres, then they'll still cut through that damp sheen on the surface, John.
Well, if anybody wants to run on a set of slicks, they're going to have to be very tentative on that first race lap. And those that may be behind and have chosen to run on wets will have the advantage. So it's going to be, I think, a very tense opening, maybe 5 or 10 minutes to this 24-hour race. And let's hope, I've said every race, please remember, you don't win it on the opening lap or into Eau Rouge Radio on that first run up the hill.
It is going to be very busy indeed. Another of the drivers to watch over this first stint, Alessio Rivera. He is starting second on the grid in the new Ferrari 296. Alessio Rivera is with Amanda.
The 51 Ferrari behind us won the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa in 2021. Alessio, you're looking for your first Spa victory. You're going to kick off this stint for this team. When you look at the conditions that we've had, what do you expect out there?
Yeah, of course, I'm really excited to start from the front row, especially in this condition when you have some spray. But yeah, now the gamble is to choose the right tires, and then the race is super long, so we'll see.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, the Ferrari 296, of course, the car that superseded the Ferrari 488, which was that winning model all those seasons ago. We've also this weekend enjoyed many of the GT1 hypercars, if you like. Not ideal conditions for them, but they've made a great spectacle and a great sound in their sessions over the course of the day and indeed of the weekend. Right, the grid is starting to thin as the VIPs and the sponsors and the guests make their way from the grid back to the paddock. Drivers getting strapped into cars. And we are therefore getting set, ready for the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa.
Up the hill, it's so much adrenaline, I really enjoy it.
Klaus Bachler talking to Amanda Busick. He's going to be not the start driver, but his car will start from third on the grid. And he's another very, very accomplished Porsche racer, is Klaus Bachler, as the grid now starts to thin from all the guests and just the last engineers ready to fire up the engines. And then at 16:30, the safety car will lead them away, not for a rolling start, but into the start of the race because of the wet track. Even though actually, John, over the half an hour or so since that decision was made, it has dried a little bit. The road is still wet enough for the officials to want to start from behind the safety car. Kevin Estre is another spectacular driver and always one to watch in the Manthey Porsche. Let's hear from Kevin.
Kevin, I kind of feel like the atmosphere is really building now as we're getting closer and closer to the race.
Yeah, well, the grid walk is here quite intense always. There's a lot of people, and the weather, you know, big rain before, wet track, and now the sun was out, so everybody hoped for a fast dry out, put the slicks, now the clouds are covering again, and it's a big race, so it's one of the biggest in the year, so we all... at least I think now we're all ready to, we want to start the race and have fun out there.
You certainly showed you've got a fantastic pace in quali.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we are good in pretty much all conditions. Difficult to know exactly in the dry because we didn't have so much dry running. But I think we feel ready. We did our best, and let's see, it's a long one.
Good luck. Thank you.
John, quick word, track surface, much better now.
Well, it's changing because the cloud has just come back over the racetrack. There are bits of the racetrack which I would say probably you get away with a pair of slick tires. There will be other bits of the racetrack, but if that cloud that's just come across the start-finish line in the last 2 or 3 minutes then decides to deposit further rain, those that have taken the punt and going onto a set of dry weather slicks might be ruining that decision. It's a tough decision for everybody to make. Instinct would be with the pro drivers to go with the slick tire. They've got the experience to know how to deal with it. But for others around, maybe the safe choice and it might be the smart choice, is to go on wet, stay on the wets.
You've just seen the silver class pole position car of Fabrizio Crestani. He was a real star in Q1 back on Thursday night. Sandy Mitchell, British GT champion, is standing with Amanda, and for the K-Pax Racing Lamborghini Huracan team, he's a man to watch.
The K-Pax Lamborghini finished 11th last year, and Sandy Mitchell's going to try to change that this season. You said you're going to be driving at night, and part of that stint, how difficult is Spa at night?
Yeah, it's super difficult. I mean, we don't have any floodlights. There's a little bit of ambient light at this part of the track, but once you get up into the forest, it's extremely dark. So, yeah, a couple of the corners you're turning in before you can even see them, and yeah, once you get into the rhythm, it's really nice, but it's difficult when you have to wake up in the middle of the night and jump in a race car. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Normally go well in the night, so yeah, excited for that.
Sandy Mitchell gets ready then for the Lamborghini. A car to watch.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Sandy said, when you wake up in the middle of the night, he indicates that he's going to go to bed. Now, I don't know how many stints he will do before it gets into the heart of the night time. But you know, the fact that a racing driver can maybe have an hour or two of sleep before he has to get back into the car, an interesting comment from Sandy Mitchell.
Now, what about a home win? WRT, of course, this year running BMWs, and Charles Wirtz is in one of the leading cars. Let's hear from him.
Charles, we've just walked up the grid a little bit together, and it's really nice to see how everybody's encouraging each other, all the drivers shaking hands.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, we are all a big family, especially in our team. So yeah, it's the meeting of the year for us. We really want to make sure we are up there. So we are all highly motivated, and yeah, we only have one goal, and it's pretty clear: it's the win.
Well, qualifying was difficult, but as you say, the race is long.
Exactly. I mean, 2 years ago we started 54th and finished second. Now we are starting 22nd, so it's already 30 places more in the front. So you know, everything is possible. I believe we have a good package, good car, good lineup. Great team, so yeah, for sure we have all the things we need to make a good result.
I wish you the best of luck. Have a great 24 hours.
Cheers, thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
So Charles Wirtz along with Dries van Thor, and as the third driver, Sheldon van der Linde in the BMW. Again, one of this long list of potential winners. It really is a wide open race.
I mean, you look through the field and try and put the tail on the donkey. Well, I've done that, but I haven't got a clue. So what I've done is look down the list and think, instinct, intuition, whatever, and I do fancy a three-driver lineup: Ricardo Feller, Matteo Drudi, Dennis Marshall in an Audi run by Audi Sport Tresor Orange 1. You know, it's not the obvious choice, but this is a race this year which I think will be even more unpredictable than we've had over previous.
We know that keeping out of trouble is part and parcel of this. We know that avoiding penalties and therefore avoiding pit lane penalties and drive-throughs and so forth, because that's so much more time wasted, and therefore it's the team that will keep out of the pits for the longest time that's going to have the very best chance. You've just seen the Maxime Martin, Valentino Rossi, and for this year the third driver with them is Augusto Farfus, BMW factory driver, so he's going to be the third part of that team. And that car, again, coming into this race with a good chance. We have had the much improved, if you like, Valentino Rossi. Far more lessons learnt from last year. He's had more mileage, and he seems to be adapting very nicely to this BMW. There's the sister car, number 32, which is Sheldon van der Linde, who is going to go first, and the last engineers now stand with the cars in readiness for the signal to be given, for the engines to fire, and then we will be ready to go for the Rouge up towards Radion. On instruction, that will move away, and the race cars will go and catch it, and as they move away, the clock will start, and 24 hours of the biggest and best GT3 race in the world will be underway, and it's going to be Porsche that will lead them away. Matteo Cairoli at the very front of the grid. Ferrari, Alessio Rivera second. Porsche, Joel Stern will go third. Lamborghini, Franck Pereira fourth. McLaren, Charlie Fagg at the wheel, fifth. Sixth, Audi, Matteo Drudi. Seventh, Lamborghini, Fabrizio Crestani. Eighth, Porsche, Stephen Palette. Ninth, Audi, Kelvin van der Linde. 10th, Audi, Alberto Di Folco. That's the way they will set off as the cars now leave the start line. Stefan Rattel, with a big smile on his face, witnesses the start of yet another great race, no doubt, here at Spa-Francorchamps. This is it. The CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa is underway. We start behind the safety car. The clock is ticking. The race is on.
Well, all the tension that's been felt in the build-up to this very moment for the drivers. Certainly now they're in the cockpit, strapped in, some cases visors up, sometimes visors down. Their focus now is on this 24 hours of Spa-Francorchamps, and it's starting under a slightly mixed track conditions. As we look, David, there is the field once again.
So let's just walk down this grid, as it were. Matteo Cairoli starts alongside the Ferrari of Alessio Rovera. Third on the grid is going to be Joel Sturm, and Franck Pereira is going to be fourth on the grid. Charlie Fagg starts fifth, and then lining up sixth is Matteo Drudi ahead of Fabrizio Crestani and then Stephen Palette. Then you will have Kelvin van der Linde and Alberto Di Folco in his Boots and VDS Audi as the cars then come now over the brow down from Les Camps towards Bruxelles. Now this car, 23rd on the grid because of the dramas in qualifying. Raffaele Marciello, Jules Gounon, and not Danny Juncadella, who they won the race with last year, but Timo Bogoslavski. They are in for a difficult first couple of hours to get up through the field, mired as they are in the body of the pack.
Well, it's not what we anticipated this car qualifying, but that was largely down to the circumstances in those four qualifying segments when it rained more and more and more through segments 2, 3, and then in that final segment 4. So expect to see the 88 making a charge to try and claw back as many of the positions that they would have felt rightly should have been theirs as early as possible. They don't want the front row cars, particularly the Herber Motorsport Porsche and the AF Corse Ferrari, to get a run and get away and build up that little cushion, which might take them more than one stint to run down.
Now let's carry on looking down the grid. We got as far as Charlie Fagg and Matteo Drudi, Fabrizio Crestani and Stephen Palette behind, and then Kelvin van der Linde and Alberto Di Folco. That will be the top 10. After that, Lucas Leggeret is going to start from 11th on the grid, and 12th, Michel Gatting in that Iron Dames Lamborghini. Last year they were the Gold Cup winners, I should say, for Ferrari, but Lynx and Iron Dames switching allegiance for this year. Fred Bavich comes next, Laurens van Thor, another Belgian driver alongside him, ahead of Kay van Berlo, and then Mauro Engel on the 8th row as well. Anton de Pasquale, supercar star from Australia, and Arjun Maini are ahead of Dennis Lind and Baptiste Moulin. Then you've got Maxime Martin and Sheldon van der Linde. Raffaele Marciello next from Rui Muirhouse and Dan Harper, with Marco Wittmann, Lucas Stoltz, Enrique Chavez, Christopher Mies and Thomas Preining all lined up behind to round out the first 15 rows of the grid. Then you've got the Carrera Cup GB champion, Kian Jewis, in the Team Parker Racing Porsche alongside Matt Hofer. Next comes Simon Mann and Louis Machiel's Ferraris both. Nico Menzel is next with Dylan Pereira alongside. Then you've got Christian Engelhardt and Maxi Goetz ahead of Lewis Williamson and Isaac Tutumlu Lopez with another of the Ferraris. Marvin Kirchhofer has alongside him Rodrigo Baptista, Marius Zug and Matt Bell next from Nicholas Cruton and Chris Froggatt. Daniel Serra and Thomas Neubauer are ahead of Alex Arca and then Glenn van Berlo, who is going to be on the outside of row 25 of the grid. Row 26 is Arthur Rougier and Philip Ellis for Winwood Racing alongside him. Then you've got Yannick Mettler and Michele Beretta. Christopher Zirkling has the car of Gregoire de Moustier alongside him. Then it's Lewis Proctor and Daniele Diamato. Leonardo Gorini and Romain Leroux on row 30. Row 31 is Adderley Fong and Jordan Pepper, a long way back after an incident and damage for that Iron Lynx Lamborghini in qualifying. Ezekiel Perez Compank on row 32 alongside Gerhard Watzinger, then Ian James and John Shen. Frederick Schandorf and Patrick Assenheimer come next ahead of Kyle Washington, and Martin Conrad, starting from the pit lane, joins at the back of the queue. That is the 70-strong field now in the sunshine that are now at the end of lap 1. For the purposes of the timing line, it is coming out of the chicane. So the first lap is always much shorter than subsequent laps because you start down there and you finish up here, as it were. So the control line, the timing line, is where the Formula One pits are, but the traditional ceremonial start is down the hill. There you can see it from the drone going into Eau Rouge. So track drying out all the time, and we're going to have at least one more lap here behind the safety car. Laurens van Thor here, John, exploring the conditions.
Yes, I mean, whether he needs his wiper or not, it indicates maybe there is still a sufficient amount of moisture on the track that's been picked up and kicked into the screen of the Porsche from Laurens van Thor. And again, you have to think that the majority of drivers, particularly the pro cars and the pro drivers, will be looking at running the slick tar, living with it, maybe a bit of a tricky handful until the circuit gets that little bit drier and they can then switch on the full dry weather slick tar. And then that's where the race for them will begin. But There we see the second place Ferrari in the grid, just making its way, and this is the climb up Eau Rouge. Now, we had that drone shot. It virtually flattens out.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
The view, and the reality is, if you stand down at the very bottom of Eau Rouge, you can't see what you call the clipping point for Radio, but it's almost like a 40-degree incline.
It is very steep indeed, I promise you. So there it is. As John says, it almost looks flat there, like a little S, but it's a real plunge. And as soon as you get to the bottom, it's a very steep climb. That is it. That is steep, in case you were wondering. And John's point is, as you go round the corner, you can't see over the brow until you get there.
No, the apex is blind. You aim. I mean, probably in the past, somebody would have said, well, the third tree to the right, the very tall one, the pine, that's the one you aim for. That was probably 20 years ago. Now there's about 5 tall pine trees that your eye line will pick up. So it's a corner where it's all about experience and knowledge and also confidence, because if you aren't confident going into Eau Rouge, fully committed, it's not going to be a nice experience.
Now there, down the pit lane, is this because they started on wets and now want to go on to slicks? Number 216 Porsche, which had an off earlier on in the week. Francis Tiger, John Shen, Benny Simonson, Matthias Besch's car. So that's going to sacrifice a place. Also in has come number 3, Patrick Assenheimer. I think this is as simple as they went out on wets and they want slicks.
Yes, and I think it was a sensible thing. At the point they made that decision to do the wet start, but they realised on this now second lap before behind the safety car, that track conditions are drying so quickly. The sun has yet again broken over the commentary booth. The wind likewise is picking up, and with 70 cars on the racetrack all following. Well, now there you see ambient temperature 18.3, track 26, but the humidity factor 96. That indicates that there's a lot of wet weather in the general vicinity of the circuit, and there's an example of what happened coming out of the pit lane, arguably.
Yeah, John Shen we've just seen in the pits, and he's come out the other side and had a moment by the look of it.
And he would have been on a wet set of dry weather slicks, yeah. I would imagine. I don't want to be, overdoing it at this point, but one would assume that that was a slick shod car. So everybody will be on waiting to see, because it is, again, just at that difficult part of the exit of Redion. There he's got going.
Okay, so the car does get going again. John Shen at the wheel of it. So there you can see how much time he's lost. He's almost a lap down now. He needs to get a wriggle on to catch the back of the queue, because the safety car is going to release the pack relatively shortly here at Spa. So the cars then come over the line. Confirmation of car 132 hitting the tyre barrier at turn 4. So that car needing to be removed. I can't believe this race is going to be over even before we've had a green flag, but you never know. I mean, it did look like there was a fair amount of damage on that right front.
Yes, I mean, it's not so much the damage that we can see, it's the damage that when the team get that car back into the garage that they will discover. So being a Porsche, first of all, the front of the car, there's vulnerability with the water cooling radiators, but then likewise behind that, then you've got the suspension. Is that another Porsche? Another Porsche, it's the same car.
That car's out of the race.
Yes.
For good. That's done, I'm afraid. Carl Washington is okay, as you've seen, but that car is far from okay. And that's it. All that effort, and even before a green flag has been shown, it's got big damage and it's out of the race.
Where we watch and see what's happening. This is a replay, and wait. And yeah, he used the curb at the top of Radio, and there you can see the right front into the... Is that concrete? I don't think there's any Tech Pro barrier that far around the exit of Radio. And that was a similar part of the racetrack that Kenny Habul had his accident on Thursday. And Kenny Habul watching in his hospital bed. Good luck, Kenny, get better soon. We know you've been out walking around, but just shows you how simple it is to get caught out by a damp curb, and that was what that curbing was. It was wetter than the actual tarmac had on the track surface itself.
Well, Carl Washington, who's done quite a bit of GT4 as well as GT3 and Sports Club America events in the States. That car here for IGTC points, the GMG Racing by Car Collection Porsche, and it is out of the race, even before, as I say, we've had that first green racing lap. This is Raffaele Marciello that you are riding with, and he makes his way out of Les Combes. And it's only really about now that for the first time since Eau Rouge, the road drops downhill. and it's a sigh of relief almost as finally we start to come back down to a sensible level.
Yes, you run up one side of the valley, then you transverse it by dropping down to the lowest part of the racetrack at the corner known as Campus, because I think there's a small university there. And then the climb begins at the entry into the Paul Frere Cove, and that's then the other side of the valley where you return back up to the finish line or start line? Finish line
For this, yes. Most circuits these days, or a fair number, have a start and finish line in a different place. Not quite like Spa, where for this event the start line is round the corner. It's quite a chunk of circuit, really, all the way down to La Source, back down the hill before you get to the line. But that's for ceremonial purposes, really. So we are currently on lap 4, and everybody weaving around. The road is getting drier all the time. Drivers eager to get on with the programme here. And as the cars now turn down towards the Piff Paff, you can see Porsche, you can see Audi, you can see Ferrari, you can see Mercedes AMG, there's McLaren in the background there. And thinking of McLaren, this is the view on board the Charlie Fagg starting car.
Charlie Fagg, a very impressive run in his qualifying stint. But David, you know, we're 15 minutes into this race. We're a quarter way through the first hour, and we haven't had a race yet.
Not for the want of trying on the officials' part, because they were all ready to go, but yeah, it's a shame, isn't it, that we are not yet racing. But the cars now will have a far, far drier circuit on which they can be released. Their drivers edging left and right, also occasionally just giving the brakes a little stamp to try and get some of that warmth from the brakes into the rubber. And all of them now eager to get on with this third round of Fanatec GT Europe and also third round of IGTC.
Reflection of our places in life, or are they reflections of us? Could we have been somebody else if we'd taken a right turn instead of a left? Or if we'd taken the place with a hot tub, or the one uptown. We went downtown. Could we be fabulous or fantabulous? Yes, we sure could. With Apartments.com's multitudes of listings, our possibilities and yours are truly multitudinous. Apartments.com, the place to find a place.
For every purpose, for every path, for every soul, for every season, there's a Ram.
During the Ram 4th of July sales event, get 10% below MSRP on the 2023 Ram 1500 Bighorn.
USAA? Yeah, they have awesome rates on coverage for our car, home, and stuff. She has a lot of stuff.
Dad.
A lot of cool stuff, honey. But USAA also has banking, credit cards, and loans. Plus advice and other perks.
Only for emergencies. Thanks, Mom.
And it's all in one spot. So we know she's all set because we've got USAA.
USAA, more than you might think, for the military community and their families.
I remember being on AAU trips, high school games. My mom would always say, you need to fuel the body and you need salt. I'm like, why do I need salt? Like, who's gonna do that? She literally would make me rip open a pack of salt, pour it in my hand, and I would lick my hand. Sure enough, I would always be the kid not cramping. I would always be the kid energized, ready to go. Fast forward 20 years and go from eating salt out of my palm to drinking Element.
My brother was wounded in Mosul, Iraq in 2005 during a combat mission. Caregiving was new and scary. I was really isolated and on my own, and I didn't reach out. That ultimately led me to a point in my life where I contemplated suicide. And once we discovered that Wounded Warrior Project not only had programs for my brother, but they had them for me and my son as well, my whole life started to change.
If it's coming between you and a new grill or the words, some assembly required, come to Ace, because Ace offers free assembly and delivery on your new grill. So get a Traeger wood pellet grill, a Weber gas grill, or a Big Green Egg charcoal grill. You won't find these premium brands and service at a warehouse store, only at your neighborhood Ace. Stop by your local Ace this Saturday and see our best grills in action. And get free assembly and delivery on your new grill.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Stop. Let's just ponder strategy. Well, let's think about 999. Mikhail Grenier, one of the drivers, he can explain it all to Amanda.
Strategy is already starting here down on pit lane. It was fuel and 4 slicks for the 999. And Mikhail, you guys said that you guys are going to get after it early. Why do you think that's going to benefit this team?
Well, there's a long safety car period going now. There was already around 15 minutes done. So we did a full stop, fuel and tires, tried to offset the strategies. I have full trust in my team, so I know they're taking the right decision. Obviously, we're here to win, so we're willing to take some risk, but let's see if it pays out.
Now, there goes Jordan Pepper, and presumably, therefore, if they have now lost a lap, they will be able to get that back. No, they won't, will they? Because they're pro-class cars. It's only the subsidiary classes that are allowed the wave bike. So if they've dropped off the lead lap, they're going to have to get that back when others pit. But if the class cars had made a stop and lost a lap, they'd be able to get waved by. There's more about this as we go through the race. It's going to be a new feature of the race this year, this wave by. You can see the damage on the Porsche. That's Ian James, by the way, who also made a pit stop in the CrowdStrike Racing by Riley Mercedes, the car that he shares with George Kurtz, the CrowdStrike boss, and Colin Braun and Felipe Fraga.
Well, Felipe Fraga certainly is a very useful addition to that particular car, but as we ride back again on the McLaren coming down the hill in 4th gear, cuts over to the right to go up the hill, and there you got your apex.
Safety car in this lap.
Just heard the voice of the race director, Alain Adon, who after 20 minutes is able to say safety car in this lap, and we are ready to go racing.
I thought he was about to say it just before we called the Porsche heading into the barriers, and hopefully now everybody is primed that by the time they come across start-finish line, this race will be a green race. It's been under green conditions, but we've been under safety car rules at the same time. So now, people, you can see the pace is beginning to pick up. Still the pace of the Audi dictating ultimately, but he can pick up a little bit of pace as well to give everybody behind the opportunity to start getting a modicum of tire temperature, get brake temperatures up as well.
So down to Bruxelles they come, and now everybody starts to sort of get on their toes, don't they? There's a little bit more urgency in this lap. It's a much, much drier road. Wouldn't believe how wet it had been at one stage this morning, but now, although there are damp patches to catch out the unwary, as we've seen into the pit lane, also now comes 56, the Yacht Raponge, Adrien Delina, Ternat Safran Tirancourt, Daniele Diamato Porsche. Diamato at the wheel of it. That makes its first stop, so that's going to drop it out of sequence. But that car is also one of the Silver Cup cars, so technically eligible for a wave by. But the safety car is going to be in this lap. Kian Jewis is also in the Parker Porsche. The bronze cars. Right, this is Charlie Fagg's view. Road getting drier and drier all the time. Matteo Cairoli then in that French tricolor liveried Porsche starts to back up the pace now. The Huber Motorsport car that he shares with Antares Au, with Tim Heinemann, with Janis Fitja, and we are set to go racing. They've got this long run up through Blanchimont, which is a corner that seems to go on forever, and then up to the chicane.
Yeah, well, Blanchimont really made up of 2 parts. The early part is nothing more than a gentle curve. The real challenge is the second part, and you'll see a lot of drivers running wide, putting 2 wheels off the racetrack to give them the maximum amount of angle to get through. There it is. There's the apex of Blanchimont. It is flat, certainly in low fuel qualifying context situations. What it'll be like now, because this racetrack has been wet for pretty much all of today.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of the rubber that would have gone down when the track was drier will have been washed away. So watch and see. The 20 Porsche comes up, and it's going to try and get the jump of the Ferrari.
So the green flag will be shown from the marshal's post on this timing line, the control line, as we go racing then in the 24 hours of Spa. There's the green flag, and Matteo Cairoli blasts away, looking for the dry patches on the road, finds the line up towards La Source, sets the car up, turns through with Alessio Rivera chasing after him. Joel Sturm there in the white Porsche is third. Fourth it is from Pereira. Fifth is Charlie Fagg. And sixth is Mathieu Drudy as they dive downhill. It's green. We're racing at Spa.
A real test for this leading group of cars. They've not been through the sequence of corners in these conditions, and it's a big adventure. The Porsche, the white Porsche, looked to me like it got a big wobble as it just got through Eau Rouge.
Climb the hill then now, and then accelerate up towards Les Combes. So there are one or two drivers on their toes to gain places, others just playing themselves in, being a bit more tentative. Understandably, there's a long, long way to go. So after just over 20 minutes, we are up and running, and Matteo Cairoli then starts to edge clear. Others going offline to overtake, including there, look, the Iron Dames, Lamborghini having to go at the Porsche number 91 as they break for Les Combes there. Robert Renard fending off the Lamborghini 92 then on a big, big charge right now. That's the Manthey EMA Porsche, which is started by Lawrence Vanthorpe. And he's another of those people using the local knowledge. But the point he made pre-race, he and Kevin Eston spent all season driving LMDH cars, now having to adapt back to GT3. Well, I think they played themselves in all right.
Oh yeah, they played themselves in, but of course in the 911, you know, the engine is behind the rear axle. Well, the prototypes he's been racing are pure race cars, so it's a small adaptation back. And Lawrence Vanthorpe has got all the years of experience in GT3 racing to know how to deal with it.
The field turning through the pith path then for the first time. This is Charlie Fagg's view, getting himself up onto the tail of the Font Pereira Lamborghini, looking for a way by, coming under attack from Mathieu Drudy in the Audi. Turn right, this is Campus. Very, very short straight. Turn right again into the Cours Paul Frere.
They're being very careful on the throttle coming into curve Paul Frere. You can hear the McLaren just backing out of it. Normally that would not be a lift. You'd be able to go through there flat out. So there's still concerns that tire temperatures are not yet up into the proper working zone, and therefore a little bit of prudence. And in the meantime, Matteo Cairoli, he had 3/4 of a second advantage over the second place Ferrari at the end of one lap ago. That has extended. It'll be over a second by the time they come. Watch the overtake. Good job up the inside. Has it made it stick? Porsche forced wide on the exit. That's the Hexus Porsche.
So that's Kelvin van der Linde in the Audi coming through. He's on a mission.
Kelvin's always on a mission. Rivera now 2 seconds behind Matteo Cairoli in the lead Porsche.
Right, now that Porsche, the Hexus Porsche number 44, is Stephen Palette, and that car is another of the bronze class cars, so therefore picking its battles, keeping out of trouble for the moment. Van der Linde then ahead of Palette, ahead of Alberto Di Folco in the Gold Cup Boots and VDS Audi as they climb the rise. You can see one or two of them now getting a bit braver and using more of the curve.
Yes, and look at the Audi behind. You could see the pace it carried through Radio, and using that pace to try and get the slipstream up the Kemmel straight. Defence on the one hand, staying in the middle of the road, and the Porsche's been overtaken. And again, a good execution. That's how you make an overtake on using Kemmel straight, but it was the speed of the Audi coming up through Eau Rouge and Radio that really set that overtake up.
So Jordan Pepper has done the fastest lap of the race after his pit stop. 63rd he was, behind Maro Engel, behind Daniel Serra, who also came in early in number 71 Ferrari. It's another car to keep an eye to, but Cairoli right now is pulling away from the pack, isn't he?
Yes, he is, and it was 2 seconds when they came across the line to go on to their 8th lap. That lap of Jordan Pepper, 2 minutes 21, bearing in mind track conditions are not perfect. He's got a full load of fuel on, because we saw him reload the fuel. That's a pretty impressive lap in these track conditions. 32, likewise BMW looking to find a way to get up alongside us at the Iron Dames. It is the Iron Dames, so up taking the long way potentially around, coming into Fagnes or flip-flop. What do you call it? Fagnes flip-flop?
Pith path.
Pith path.
Yes.
Sounds like table tennis to me, but anyway, it's got a variety of names. As have many corners here at Spa-Francorchamps. The Rover Racing BMW likewise trying to follow through. There's the 46, the car that will at some point this evening see Valentino Rossi behind the wheel.
We've had our first retirement confirmed. It was the Porsche with all the damage. They've had to retire the car. There, look, Maxime Martin comes up to get past the Iron Dames Lamborghini, and also going after him there is the Harper Verhagen Hesse BMW, another car on a mission. So the BMWs working their way forward.
And I think, in fact, Maxime Martin, the 46, is going to find the sister BMW threatening his position, because it looked to me as if it was quicker coming out of the Paul-Francoeur and all the way up through Blanchimont.
Dan Harper at the wheel of the BMW. Over the timing line they come. Mercedes goes ahead. Mercedes about to get mugged because up the inside line goes the BMW then. And Marco Wittmann in the Rover BMW breaks as late as he dares. Endurance Cup Championship leader, don't forget, tries to get alongside the Mercedes. Downhill now, plunges 96. This is the Rutronic Porsche. Thomas Preining, Laurin Heinrich and Dennis Olsen's car. That's the largely yellow and blue one. There, going through shot, being given a very hard time in turn by Enrique Chavez in the McLaren now.
So we've got a group of 5, 6 cars, all more or less covered by the proverbial handkerchief up the Camel Straight. So you want to find the best position, which is on the left, coming up to get into the corner. And the Mercedes again manages just to squeeze the Porsche in the change of direction coming through Les Combes. And then the exit of Les Combes again, the curb. Don't overrun the curb, you'll get into trouble if you do.
That's Arjun Maini at the wheel of the Mercedes, and 24th and 25th is that battle pack up the inside line there. Look goes out in number 21. That is Nicholas Bart, Maxim Soule, Max Hoffer's car. Porsche gets run out wide there over the curb. Nico Menzel, and he tries to fight back. So you can see at the moment there's so much shuffling at stake, but also you've got to be careful because to do the overtaking you find the damper part of the road.
Exactly, and the run down into Pujol, you could see if you went to the left of the racetrack, it is still visually damp there. So you don't want to go into that part of the racetrack when you know you're going to make a major commitment coming into the 2-part Pujol corner.
Right, Cairoli leading the way, 2.2 seconds to the good. You're riding with Thomas Preining at the moment in number 96 Porsche. This is the Rutronic car, and it's one of the IGTC registered squads. Rutronic Racing, Thomas Preining, the DTM Championship leader, in which he races a Porsche. Side by side there, the BMWs. 32, Sheldon van der Linde alongside Maxime Martin. They are not only brand mates, they're teammates. They're run out of WRT behind them. Look, you've got the car in the hands of Dan Harper out of the Rover Racing stable. Maxime Martin fends off Sheldon van der Linde, and they're looking for a way past Anton de Pasquale, the Australian supercar star. What a battle!
The 3 BMWs line astern, Maxime Martin leading them, Sheldon van der Linde, then Dan Harper. And further back, then you're another group of, what is it, a dozen or more, maybe even, I can't even begin to count.
So over the timing line they go. It's getting darker of others as well. The skies are looking a little bit more leaden. So all those people that are on slicks might yet be in for a bit of a drama because the Spa weather thinks, let's just be a little bit more facetious here. And it's threatening to rain once more. Pasquale goes through then ahead of Martin with a great little fight. This 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. The 3 BMWs ganging up on the Porsche. Maxime Martin makes his move and goes ahead. Good pass.
And you can see. So there is the view looking from Les Combes, but nothing that McLaren is able to do. The Lamborghini had sufficient straight land advantage just to consolidate its position. As again we see a little bit of stick the nose up the inside and see if that's been given the ground as the Porsche now beginning slowly. Lawrence Van Four behind the wheel to find how can he. He's being much more patient than maybe one would have assumed. But actually, I think this is going to be a race where patience pays dividends.
Now we're getting purple sectors now. Look, Maxime Martin, having been released, as it were, clear road ahead, suddenly the quickest man within the first sector. Lawrence Van Four in number 92 Porsche there going down the hill, still trying to make progress, still edging his way forward, heading downhill now, running in 11th place that car. Fred Verviche just up the road ahead of him in the Audi. And Verviche, in turn, is glued to the back of Alberto Di Folco. Look at this, Joel, the 2 Audis absolutely tied together.
Come on, Freddie. We know you can do it. By the way, just the quickest race lap has gone to Matteo Cairoli, 2 minutes 19.5, which is a pretty special lap. He's got a 3.8-second lead over the Ferrari. But this is the battle which we're watching right now. And it's a usual story. We've seen it after so many years, where Audi upon Audi up through Paul Vercoeur. Cars have got identical performance. The only difference will be in the preferential setup. Is our race leader comes through this chicane to lead on to the start-finish lap.
So that's the race leader. That's Matteo Cairoli, who comes through. In second place, Alessio Rivera's Ferrari in the background. It was 3.8 seconds last time. Let's see what it is this time across the stripe. Porsche leads the way. Ferrari in second, and that's 4.5 seconds now, that margin between the top two. Third is Joel Stern. So that's second. Let's wait for third to emerge from the source. There it is, the white Porsche in the background. And then for fourth, Mathieu Drudi in the Audi. So Rivera heads down the hill onto lap number 12. You can see how much time he's pulled over Sturm, and then in 4th place is the Audi of Drudy. That's Charles Sturm leading the, second I should say, in bronze, because the leading car, believe it or not, is bronze. Put a bronze driver in with some pros, and it automatically puts the bronze categorisation. And their 3rd and 4th is probably the closest fight of that leading quartet, because Mathieu Drudy, that's John's dark horse for a win, isn't it? The Drudy Audi. There it is in 4th place.
Yeah, I mean, there was just, again, intuitiveness. I don't know whether there's going to be a good guess at the end of the day, but certainly Matteo Drudy, who we know is always a star in an Audi, is doing an excellent job, running only 1.3 seconds behind Joel Sturm in this 3rd place Porsche.
That's 5th. That's from Pereira, another of the Lamborghini factory drivers in the K-Pax racing car, the American team. And then 6th, Charlie Fagg. You don't need to be told what the gap is, there you can see it. The two of them are virtually 5th equal, aren't they? Because Fagg is that close at the back. More battles further down. You've got Nico Menzel in the Porsche heading up the hill there further back in 30th place. Christopher Mies, 54 Porsche in and amongst that as well. Christian Engelhardt just keeping number 66 of Dylan Pereira at bay, the Porsche Super Cup champion Dylan Pereira. Moving to GT cars from one-make Porsches for this year. There he is, number 66, going down through Bruxelles, the Luxembourg's driver. So out of Bruxelles, and making progress through this is very, very difficult at the moment. It's so evenly matched to the cars.
Well, I think what also I find actually impressive is that everybody appears to be not trying to win the race in the first hour or whatever. And a lot of those cars driven by pro drivers that were out of position due to the circumstances of qualifying are not ragging their car and not dive bombing. Well, having said that, there's the McLaren doing the very thing that I just described wasn't going to happen. But it was a clean overtake, and there was an opportunity down into Fagnes to make that move, and it's been able to stick.
So good pass made. Order now continues to shuffle around, because there you can see the number 159 McLaren. That is Marvin Kirchhofer. And he's on his toes because he's wriggled his way up past Maxi Goetz there in the white Mercedes. He's also got past the yellow Mercedes in the background of Lewis Williamson on this lap. Now, those are two very quick drivers. Maxi Goetz has won this event before. We've got 13 previous winners on the grid, by the way. Drama at the chicane, very nearly, because the sister car of Enrique Chavez comes under attack then, heading up towards the line. Look, so here to the stripe comes Chavez battling with Lucas Stoltz. And that McLaren has also, I think, gained a place on that lap, hasn't it? So Enrique Chavez, former single-seater gun, goes ahead of Lucas Stoltz. He's right onto the tail of Anton de Pasquale. And in our booth overlooking the F1 pit, it's like somebody's just turned off a light. Suddenly, it has got very much darker.
It is extremely dark. Even though we've got a dark, bit of vinyl on the top of the window, it's still pretty dark outside. A lot of the cars have not nearly, I'd say nearly all of them are now running with their lights on. I don't know if there's been an instruction from race director that these are now equivalent to nighttime running, but certainly a lot of cars running with headlights.
We're getting already driving standards flags for track limit offences. They come on the 4th offence, so the track limit situation, as expected, is going to become a factor as the race leaders here at Spa work lap number 13, and it's Porsche in the lead.
And let yourself be here.
Here's your parachute.
Packed it myself.
Certain it's okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are you for imprint certain?
Certainty matters. Like the certainty of congratulating coworkers or saying thank you for being a customer with promotional products from 4imprint. Our expert team is dedicated to making your satisfaction a certainty.
Packed it myself.
Land the perfect products at 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
Some things are better left to a professional.
In hindsight, probably shouldn't have tried to remove my own appendix.
Like when it comes to finding financial advisors.
What was I thinking?
So leave it to Smart Asset to find them for you. Take the free quiz at smartasset.com. Then you'll be matched with up to 3 vetted fiduciary financial advisors. To get started, take the Advisor Match Quiz now at smartasset.com.
I was this close. This close.
You gonna start the engine sometime soon, Erica?
odds of all of us being here at this time, it's improbable. And yet, here we are, together.
Hold on to your saddles.
I mean, this is what I would say is an archetypical Kelvin van der Linde drive. He is what I call a racing driver, not a driver who drives racing cars.
Yeah.
And Kelvin and his brother Sheldon are both very, very adept racers, and Kelvin is putting that to full effect. He's in 7th place. You mentioned Charlie Fagg, you just saw that. He's popped up to 5th place ahead of Frank Pereira in the 6th place Lamborghini. Gap between 1st and 2nd continues to grow. It's now just under 5 seconds, and Joel Sturm is a further 3.3 seconds behind the Ferrari. Matteo Drudi only 1.8 seconds behind the Porsche in 3rd place. So keep an eye on my little hero Matteo Drudi to see whether he can run that down. We are now coming up to 40 minutes into this race, just over 40 minutes. So it will not be that long before we see the regular pit stoppers. Remember, some went off message, out of sequence, so they'll be staying out longer.
We're also hearing there are spots of rain in the endurance pits. So there are spots of rain falling. We're looking at the fight at the moment for 13th place. This is Stephen Palette and Raffaele Marciello. And Valentino Rossi thinks, is it going to be my turn next? And is it going to be wet when I get into the car? It's conceivable. So we are heading then towards the end of this first hour. And there is the Rossi BMW that at the moment is in 17th place in the hands of Maxime Martin. 18th is Sheldon van der Linde, 19th is Dan Harper.
Yeah, these three cars have been more or less glued to each other all the way through. And Maxime Martin has always had just sufficient in hand to keep Sheldon van der Linde behind him. And Dan Harper has been doing everything he can to get his BMW M4 up ahead of the two cars directly. Valentino Rossi on the pit wall, engaged in a fairly energetic discussion, I would have thought, with the engineers. And his chance will come whether he'll be 2nd or 3rd in the car, or whether we might actually see Maxime Martin double stint.
So downhill they plunge as you look there at Maxime Martin. Now bear in mind, of course, that you score points in Fanatec GT at the 6-hour and the 12-hour mark, as well as at the end of the race, so they want to make sure they're in a good position, every team at those markers. And so 88 Raffaele Marciello goes ahead now of Stephen Palette, right around the outside.
Oh, did
Runs
he?
wide. He's got the job done, but it's a bit touch and go, and Palette's the one that gets elbowed out.
He certainly only lost not just 1 but 2 positions, might lose a 3rd. So whether that will be considered to be a clean overtake, or will maybe the famous expression force majeure come into play. But anyway, I don't think that Porsche will have been overly happy to have been elbowed or hip and shouldered in the manner that Raffaele Marciello. I don't think he did it on purpose, did he? Did he?
Wouldn't have thought so. He's on a mission. He wants to get past. That was a chance. He took it. Hard racing, but it was a pro against a lower graded driver.
Yeah, he took it. He made it. Whether it'll be viewed slightly differently. So,
but there's evidence, if you like, of my point. They want to score points as well as they can at 6 and 12 hours. You may well find the teams playing the strategy here as well to use as little of their slower driver as possible within the first 12 hours, because if we don't get to the end of the race, then at least we'll have scored well at 6 and at 12. And that's what Akkodis ASP did a few years ago. They kept Timo Boguslavski out of the car for quite a lot of the first 12 hours and banked the points for leading at 6 hours and at 12, and then they put him in the car.
I know the feeling very well. I mean, on occasions, I do feel like the third man in the commentary booth.
I'll let you get a word in before 6 hours are up, I promise.
Well, in between commercial breaks and whatever.
Over the line goes 216. That was the other car that spun behind the safety car. It's dropped a lap, and there's the car in 2nd place. Alessio Rivera at the wheel of it. That's John Shen then in 216. 67th place, that car. But when we get another safety car period, and it's bound to come, because it's in one of the classes, it will be allowed on the wave by to get a lap back.
Actually, the Ferrari has closed down marginally on the lead Porsche. It was over 4 seconds. Now it's down to just literally a couple of thousandths under that. And Joel Sturm, 3rd place. He's losing ground to Rivera, so that indicates that the Ferrari has picked up the pace. In fact, the last lap from Rivera was 2 minutes 20.6. against the last lap of the lead car, a 2:21.2. So over half a second a lap this car took out of the lead car. Proof that Rivera has picked up dipsays.
One or two of the team's weather forecasts suggesting there is more rain on the way, but not that they need to worry about it just yet. Matteo Cairoli is still the race leader here at Spa by 4 seconds from the Ferrari of Rivera. As BMW, Enrique Chavez is behind in the McLaren. He's close, John, but he's not quite close enough to make a move there.
No, and is that the 32 getting involved? It is. And that's with the Hexus Porsche. So I don't know why that is necessary, because that's the sort of damage that can inflict a pit stop upon you. So he turns in, and then the Porsche cuts across. So that's a misunderstanding between the two drivers. Was I right to make that move down the inside? Was I right to cut late? In the case of the Porsche, both drivers will feel that that was an avoidable incident. So there's the onboard view from Kelvin van der Linde as we look again at Chavez in the McLaren harrying van der Linde as they come up and across the start-finish line to go on to what will be their 18th lap.
I was hesitating because number 71 has attracted my attention. It was Daniel Serra that we put in the car. That's been given a driving standards flag for unsporting behaviour, which isn't a phrase that's often used.
Well, we need an explanation as to what unsporting behaviour in this instance refers to. But what something needs referring to is that the gap between first and second is now down to less than 3 seconds. Rivera continuing to reel in this car, the lead car, and now the gap is 2.7 seconds.
Overall leader, bronze leader, is Matteo Cairoli. I don't think when you look at the entry list you'd expect that at the end of the first hour it will be a bronze car leading, especially from pole position. But anyway, such has been the quirk of the event so far. So there is Matteo Cairoli in this car shared by Janis Fittia with Tim Heinemann and with Antares out. Cairoli is very much the star turn in that, but Tim Heinemann is far from slow. DTM Trophy champion, German GT4 champion. So in terms of the overall position, it'll be interesting, but certainly a bronze class win. Beckens, now that's a very, very crossed up Charlie Fagg. He is a class leader as well, because he currently is leading the Gold Cup. And I think we've said in the past about him rattling over the curb and how much that puts through the car, but he's a spectacular man to watch as he leads the Alberto Di Folco Audi, and then Max Hoffer's ComTU Audi winning gold.
Yes, that was a moment I didn't expect to see, because why would you have to work that hard at a part of the racetrack? It's not particularly quick through that right-left sequence of almost like it's like a grown-up chicane. But we saw Charlie Fagg having to do a lot of work behind the wheel to keep the car pointing in the correct direction.
That Lamborghini front Pereira has dropped quite a bit of time, hasn't it? Because it was ahead at one point in 4th place overall. It's now down to 7th. In silver, it is here. Fabrizio Crestani leading the way. Comes out of the chicane. He leads Lucas Leggeret and then Rui Meohas, last year's GT4 European Series champion. So that's the silver leader. The leading overall class car, if there is such a thing as an overall class, is Alessio Rivera. The pros don't get a class as such, but were they to, that would be the leading one.
Yeah, well, Cairoli is, by all defect, a pro driver.
Yeah, indeed.
And as a pro driver against a pro driver, gap down to 2.6 seconds.
Good little fight here. That's Raffaele Marciello coming up to have a go at the Audi ahead of him. So Marciello on the back of Fred Verviche now, and taking Leggeret with him. This is where all of that grunt of the Mercedes should kick in. Verviche just a little bit wider up the curb. Marciello in the wheel tracks now as they pound their way towards Les Cons. Marciello is closing, he's in the tow. Is he going to be able to pull out at the last moment? Verviche stands his line. Marciello moves to the inside line and can't do it because Verviche brakes late but goes deep into the corner, and Marciello does get by.
And he outbraked himself, and in the process not loses one but 2 positions, and that was only because Fred Verviche knew that Marciello was on the inside. He had to go deep into the corner, but in the process he just ran out of braking power, and consequently in defence he lost not 1 but 2 positions.
Sheldon van der Linde also now being given an unsporting behaviour flag. Interesting. And we're getting 1 or 2 more for track limits.
All these track limits are at the exit of Blanchimont. I mean, you can look, we got all this information on our timing and scoring screen, and there's only about 4 other incidents where track limits have been flagged up, and that's at the top of radio. I mean, everybody's just running wide on the exit of Blanchimont, and as a consequence, they're getting notifications.
And that's partly because of the fact that the road is drying out, and therefore the drivers are pushing that a little bit harder. Raffaele Marciello there, up 11 places. Enrique Chavez has gained 11. Stephen Pallet's dropped 13. We've seen him being roughed up a little bit. Thomas Priming has gained 7. Marvin Kirchhofer has gained 12, though. An amazing stint for number 159 McLaren.
Well, Marvin Kirchhofer, a very highly rated driver indeed, both when he was at Aston Martin and now at McLaren. So there's no big surprise running currently in 30th position. So excellent run by Kirchhofer.
And Frederick Schandorf has gained 23 places. How about that?
Well, I mean, that, I think we'd better write a letter to the Guinness Book of World Records and submit that as a potential. I mean, what can you do as we come up, but we're, what, 6 minutes away from the conclusion of first hour.
That's right, so we're almost there. This is Frederick Schandorf, former Lamborghini Super Trofeo Middle East champion. He's won the World Final in the past as well, and currently the McLaren hustling on with the Scandinavian behind the wheel. He was last year's gold champion in the Endurance Series. He was silver champion back in 2020. Danish Formula Ford champion as well, Frederick Schandorf.
Jordan Pepper making that very early pit stop and then realizing that it's going to take a long time for the 63 Lamborghini to get up into where they again would assume they should naturally be running, which would be certainly comfortably within the top 20, and probably in the case of the driver lineup that they've got inside the top 10.
Battle on here. This is for third and fourth. We've not really touched on Joel Sturm's pace. He's dropped away from Cairoli and Rovera, but he's not as high a graded driver, so you can understand that. Mattia Drudi, though, hasn't found a way past him. So Joel Sturm has done a very good job in this first stint. He's driven nicely, smoothly, consistently. He's kept the car up in contention, and we are heading towards the end of the first hour, so we'll anticipate pit stops. Quite often, teams will come in just a little bit earlier at the end of the first stint, just to see how much fuel they've got left, just to make sure that they've got one stint done. And then with that data, they might stretch it by a lap on the next round of pit stops, either to the very end, or maybe even one further on the third stint.
Yeah, I mean, all this is part of what teams are about. They're not all sitting in the pit lane, eating ice creams and swinging their legs and thinking, isn't it lovely to sit in the sun? When it comes out, of course, don't bet on it coming out too frequently. But, I mean, Matteo Drudi all over the rear of Joel Sturm as they come across the start-finish line. Sturm staying defensive, staying on the right-hand side of the track. Drudi makes that big dive to the left to try and make the undercut, as Sturm will run wider on the exit than the Audi will do. So no gain or loss to either driver in that situation. But there's been a gain, in fact, for the lead Porsche. It's pulled away again from the second place Ferrari. The gap's now up to just under 3.5 seconds.
So Sturm versus Drudi, third and fourth. Porsche versus Audi, bronze versus overall. Drudi here, I reckon he's close enough to make the move, isn't he now? He's getting into the wheel tracks of that white Porsche as they head up towards Les Cornes. So the Audi inching ever closer. No gap on the inside. Drudi goes to the outside line. No way through there, I don't think. No, can't do it. Very close to the back of the Porsche, but 911 hangs on to the place.
Yeah, but what Drudi's trying to do is force the Porsche, Joel Sturm, to go defensive to enable him. Look, Dan Harper's got ahead of the sister car, which was Marcus Wittmann. So that's a pass that we didn't see, but there it is on screen. So now what will Dan Harper be able to do as he's been released, chasing down Shelvin van der Linde, and these four BMWs have been more or less nose to tail, give or take the odd occasion when another car's gotten between them through circumstance rather than a competitive battle. So four BMWs fighting it out in 17th through to 20th position.
Right, pit stops are coming now. You've got Alex Arca in, you've got Glenn Van Berlo, Philip Ellis in the Winward Mercedes, Christopher Zirkling in as well. Dan Harper you're riding with as he comes out of Bruxelles, being chased by his teammate Marco Wittmann. What's interesting here is that Maxime Martin has been caught again by Sheldon van der Linde, who's brought that train of BMWs along with him. Harper still can't find a way past him. Wittmann is there on the tail as well, but Maxime Martin at the front of that queue, still in 17th place, and in fact lost out a lap ago. Kay Van Berlo got past him, so the BMWs are struggling a bit.
Well, it'll be interesting. We've got two teams running the BMWs. There's the 55 Porsche in, to see which way the WRT and the Rover Racing team organise their pit stops. Now, I'm not sure where Rover Racing are on the the high pitch, the Formula One pitch, or they're down on the other side of the pitch where you've got a much steeper decline. But there will have to be a bit of assistance between those two teams to ensure that they don't end up tripping over one another.
So Martin blasts now through Blanchimont. Sheldon van der Linde still chasing him. So you've got Porsche, Ferrari, Porsche, Audi, McLaren, Audi, Lamborghini, Lamborghini, Audi, Porsche within the top 10. Fastest lap, still that from lap 12 from Matteo Cairoli in the very early part of the racing element of the race. And there for the pit lane goes Wittmann.
Yes, I think probably a good move. He lost a position to Dan Harper. So ideal opportunity to come in and get out of that four-way train battle with the two BMW teams.
Yeah. Also in Dennis Lind, also in Fred Verviche. So now the order starts to shuffle.
So there is the 32 BMW, Sheldon van der Linde. The gap between he and Maxime Martin has stretched a little. So Sheldon van der Linde.
52 30-second time penalty for track limits to be taken at the next pit stop.
Well, car 52 is the Ferrari of Lilou Wadou, Louis Machiels, Jeff Machiels and Andrea Bertolini, and a penalty then is coming. Well, going nicely in Porsche 20, you're looking at 71, Daniel Serra. He's in third. The car that he's chasing is absolutely directly ahead. That is the Mercedes now. Mauro Engel at the wheel of 999. So this is the battle starting to develop for second place. Enrique Chavez now in the McLaren has done the fastest lap of the race. He's gone quicker than Dennis Lind had, 2:18.5, as the road gets ever drier and ever quicker.
I mean, that is a very quick lap in race conditions. Okay, the car's been in, got fresh rubber, but it's got another load of fuel on board. But it just indicates how much the track is evolving now that it is effectively fully dry. There may be little patches way offline, but fresh rubber, a clear lap and a focused driver results in a quick lap 2:18.5. I mean, that we were looking at those lap times thinking that would have probably got you midfield for your qualifying.
Engel's got a bit stuck in traffic here, hasn't he? Because the Bullet Racing Aston Martin is not yet getting out of the way, and Mauro Engel hasn't quite got that last couple of tenths of pace to be able to jump past it naturally, as it were. So he's a bit stuck.
I think maybe coming out of Blanchimont, he might have the benefit of a bit of a run up the hill, so he's looking to line himself up. Goes one way, and the Aston's trying to defend. Mauro Engel goes the long way, gets alongside, goes around the outside, but has he made it out? Oh, yes, he has made it stick. The Aston might try to come back, but the concern is that Rivera directly behind, and the Ferrari will be trying to pick up the pieces. And the Ferrari should be able to benefit out of this, but the Aston is still between these two cars.
Spen in the background, coming out of the chicane, look. Car facing the wrong way, so second and third go through. That, I think, is the third spin for Lamborghini number 70. Gerhard Watzinger's third spin, two of which have been at the chicane.
Consistent, you have to say that's consistency.
Bad news, though, because that car is hemorrhaging time now. So Watzinger is about 3 laps down, gets going again, but he's been good in Super Trofeo, Gerhard Watzinger, as a quick am, but a different type of beast altogether, a GT3 car, and it's caught him out. Time penalty now also for Nicholas Bourne, David Schumacher, Marius Zug's Mercedes for speeding in the pit lane.
First one of those we've had notified so far today. There is the third place Ferrari, Daniel Serra. That's the 51, I beg your pardon. That's Rivera in 5th place, trying to run down the original race leader, the number 20, Janis Fitcher Porsche car, which is a very impressive pace, I have to say, for Fitcher. Didn't anticipate his pace would be as at the level it is.
Yeah, Janis Fitcher, who's another of the drivers, and there are so many on this grid, that started off in single-seater racing, but went as far as GP3 before switching to Porsches. Drove in the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe last year, and doing a good job at the moment then, lapping in the 2:20s, quicker than those ahead. You're looking at number 62 there going through. That's the Parker Porsche. Kian Jewis at the wheel of it. This car shared by Derek Pearce, Xavier Marzan and Andy Merrick, the man that heads up the British Racing Drivers Club Superstars programme, of which Kian Jewis is one of the 2 representatives on the grid, the other being Charlie Fagg, and the Superstars programme by the BRDC aimed at bringing on young British talent.
And of course Andy Merrick, who was a promising young footballer before he saw the light and took up motor racing.
And his dad was a very successful racer as well, Peter Merrick, going back a long, long time. And then he came back to Race Historics a little while ago as well. So there you've got the bronze battle. It is, at the moment, Janis Fitcher from Kian Jewis from Marco Seefried. Now, you think Marco Seefried, bronze, never. But like Klaus Bachler, like Joel Sturm, like Matteo Cairoli, because of other drivers' grading that he has as co-drivers, the car is eligible for that bronze category.
David, just interesting, if I made a comeback as a race driver, what category would I go into? It would have to be a very base metal. I don't think there is one currently.
Tin.
Tin.
You're tin.
Tin.
The Tin Man, John. That's
tin,
what you are.
tin.
You're the tin. When you get to a given age, you instantly become bronze. So however many Grand Prix you won, you would be bronze. 56 now. This is another of the Porsches being given a time penalty. The Reponge de Lina Suffering Tiracool Diamato Porsche for track limits, number 56. So penalties are racking up, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's inevitable. We're into the second hour. Why not get a few more penalties? Gives us something more to discuss as we're on board with the McLaren all the way down into Rouge and then the cut back over the top of Radio. Every time you do it, it's almost like it knocks the wind out of you as you go into the compression. Then you get released as you come up over the top of Radio. Wow, another lap. You're going to do this for 24 hours.
More drama. It's Batzinger again. Gerhard Batzinger at La Source. I think that was with a bit of help. Batzinger has had a horrible time in this first stint. And can he drive himself out of the gravel? Yes, he can. That's the good news. Get up the hill where the tarmac is and spin turn the car around if you can to be out of everybody's way. Well done, Gerhard Batzinger. How did he get there? I think there was contact.
No.
Oh, no. Well, there was there.
Yes.
And whoa, Maxime Martin, oh, so nearly.
And the bodywork came off the BMW. Yeah. A little bit of bodywork was caught.
It was Dennis Lindy hit on the inside, and Martin just missed him on the outside.
I think there's bodywork from the BMW. A flick of something came off. Anyway, he must feel like he's either punchboard or countersunk with the amount of damage and spins and whatever he's had so far.
Stick at it, Gerhard. Gerhard Batzinger rejoins the race, but it's all getting a bit leery now.
Said I'm fired up. I'm sorry your time's up. I see the time up. Came from the ashes, I rise up.
These caramel cold brew M&Ms are like M&Ms with a coffee shop vibe.
Maybe too much of a coffee shop vibe.
This next one is about the importance of friendship, so I'm gonna maintain eye contact while I sing it.
Oh boy.
Sure, you should teach him to ride a bike. Then use Greenlight and teach him how to invest in bikes. Teach him to be smart about money and he'll go far.
Super far! Oh, hey, Mom!
Navigate the world of money together. Invest in your best investment. Greenlight.
Protect your dog from heartworm disease every month with HeartGuard Plus Chews. Digestive and neurologic side effects have been reported. For a limited time, get up to a 2-month rebate when you buy 12 doses of both HeartGuard Plus Chews and NexGuard Chews from your vet. Terms apply.
I remember being on AAU trips, high school games. My mom would always say, you need to fuel the body and you need salt. I would always be the kid not cramping, ready to go. Fast forward 20 years and go from eating salt out of my palm to drinking Element.
We love our house. The outdoor space is great, but we do have invasive weeds.
I think we got in the house.
I think you're right.
This particular rose bush.
Stay away from my family! Why are you so strong? At least Geico makes bundling my home and car insurance easy. We save so much.
You want me to get the spray stuff?
Get the spray stuff.
He's up here!
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
I'm getting older. Do I need to worry about falling?
Yes, you do. Each year, 1 in 4 people 65 and older will experience a fall, and many will be serious. The majority of falls happen at home, so remove things that could make you trip and install handrails to keep you steady. To learn more about the steps you can take to help prevent a fall, please talk to your doctor. You can also visit aarpfoundation.org or medicaremadeclear.com/falls. This message was brought to you by United Healthcare and AARP Foundation.
Wake up, Achievers. You're making the most of every hour of your life, except the hours that you're sleeping. So why do we leave so much untapped potential on the table? This is a next level bed for a next level you. My circadian rhythm is kicking your circadian rhythm's butt.
It's not a competition.
I know. But I'm still winning.
So it is a competition.
The Queen Sleep Number 360 C2 Smart Bed is now only $8.99, plus free home delivery when you add an adjustable base. Shop now, only at Sleep Number.
3-on-3 action is like overtime. All the time. Don't miss a shot. 3 Ice on CBS Sports Network.
Third in the pits, so their next stops are again early and out of sequence.
Yeah, I mean, there we'll see the Ferrari back is at the cells to 71 in this time. As Maro Engel comes up the top pits to go around the inside of La Source, then drop down to that car's pits box. And so Jordan Pepper leads, and it'll be Fitcher in the Porsche technically that will then pick up in third place. There is the Mercedes creeping down, and it feels interminably long as the 71 Ferrari sits there waiting.
So remember, it's down to how long the fuel hose is connected as to whether it's the long or the short stop. Well, it's clearly a long one, and therefore it's got to be connected for 43 seconds. Could be longer, but a minimum of 43. Engel arrives, away goes 71. Daniel Serra has been in that car since the start. Maro Engel, by the look of it, is staying aboard the Grupper M 999 Mercedes.
And that's this car's second stop, because they came in early, and then... Is it second? It is the second.
Yes, absolutely right, yeah. But interestingly, the other car that came in early is the one that leads the race, Jordan Pepper, and that hasn't come in as yet, at least.
So creeping down at 50 kilometers per hour. At least it's the same for everybody.
Yep. Walking pace, it must feel like. But here, look, the Ferrari is going to try to get the place. It came in behind the Mercedes. The Mercedes needs to get going. It does. And hangs on to second spot then. So track position retained by Grupper M with the Mercedes AMG over the Ferrari.
Which more or less goes to prove there's no significant advantage whether you're on the high pits or the low pits as we go back into the conclusion of another lap. And Jordan Pepper is in.
So the leader is in this time, so lap 31 will be completed by the leader.
So Maro Engel then assumes the lead, and he's got Daniel Serra behind him, and then Janis Fritche will acquire third place. So in fact, yes, Pepper's in, but it looks like Fritche is going to be our leader from Rivera,
yeah.
And then Matteo Drudi and Engel's in, and Serra's in, and then we've got Siegfried in the 911 Porsche.
So there's the Jordan Pepper pit stop. This, incidentally, one of a number of cars making its Spa 24-hour debut, the Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2. The others are the Ferrari 296, the McLaren 720S Evo, and Porsche debuting the 911 GT3R within this race. Not its first race, but its first Spa 24 hours, if you're with me.
Maro Engel back out on the track, and he should have the Ferrari somewhere in his mirrors, but I think he's managed to stretch the advantage he had when he joined the track, or rejoined the track. As we watch the 63, just the mechanic did something on the left-hand side, then we cut back to this, so I couldn't quite see what he was doing. Car going in. I knew there was something that he came out and went to the left-hand side. Couldn't see what it was, and there we are. There's a problem for that 63 Lamborghini.
And that was in the lead when it came in. There was no suggestion of a problem, but big drama then. Number 63, the Iron Lynx Lamborghini, into its garage. Now, the regulations do say that at one part of the race you've got to make a 4-minute technical pit stop, but you can't do that until you've done 12 hours of the race. So it's not that. So it must be something more sinister. That's got a problem. It's in the garage.
Absolutely, and it wasn't apparent initially when the car came into the pit lane. Just caught the mechanic running around the left-hand side, and something in his hands, and then we cut to this car coming into view, the Maro Engel Mercedes, and then we cut back to the pit lane, at which point the Lamborghini was being pushed back into the garage. So that's a bit of an opportunity for, let's find out what's going on with the 63 Lamborghini. We're hoping to get somebody down there with the microphone, but usually what happens when teams have a problem, the shutters come down, and we don't want to talk, do we?
Trying to work out what else it could be, but either way, they're hemorrhaging time. So now it is going to be Janis Fitche who gets that lead back. Maro Engel there goes up the hill. So here is the team hard at work. They've got the bodywork off the front. They're taking the wheel off. I'm not getting an instant answer, but there's clearly big problems for the number 63 Lamborghini here as the mechanics go to work and furrowed brows all round that car.
Looks to me as if the
has done the fastest lap of the race so far. And the fight you're looking at here is for 9th, 10th and 11th places overall, where there is a Silver Cup car ahead of an overall category car ahead of a bronze. And there, Marcello makes the move. The Mercedes almost level as they go into the corner, and he's got the job done and he's gained a place.
Yeah, I mean, again, all that was done from the exit of La Source down through Rouge Radio, gets the slipstream up the hill, and just had that additional momentum. And Sam Neri did the right thing. He didn't go aggressive and try to block, because these are two drivers and two different cars and effectively two different classes. Up the inside, Chavez tries, but not quite enough, and he has to back out of it. Sam Neri stands his ground and maintains the track position, but overall, watch now, down the inside into Pujol. Yes, Sam Neri again, intelligent driving. He's done what he had to do. He's fought hard, but he knew when to concede. Knowing when to concede in an endurance race is one of the most important aspects.
So Sam Neri, who represented the UK in the FIA Motorsport Games at Paul Ricard last year, turns his way through. Now there is Marcello coming up to try and negotiate Martin Conrad. That is the Mercedes that started from the pit lane. That was a brand new car, finished just in time yesterday evening for the warm-up session. There's been a fourth driver parachuted into the car, not quite literally, but almost. Adam Osika, the man that actually owns the Get Speed Racing team, as the bronze. Kenny Harble is, after a broken vertebrae, up and about, but watching from hospital rather than from the circuit. Liam Talbot was on his way to drive that car, got to Doha Airport and was told, you're not going to drive because you're not going to get to the circuit in time. So he said, well, I'll go home again. He still had a 12-hour layover in Doha. Marcello dives up the inside to put the lap on Martin Conrad. They need to keep the car in the race. They weren't going to scratch it, partly because of all the effort to get it here. But importantly, Kenny Harble scores points in IGTC. You can't score them when he's not racing. I get that bit. But what they can do by having the car still in the race is take points away from the opposition to help Kenny Harble when he is next able to go racing.
Indeed. So Mercedes and McLaren are back at it. So Marcello has got a real fight in his hands because Chavez has got overall pace. He's also got the fastest single overall lap, 2 minutes 18.5. So theoretically, the McLaren is the quicker of these two cars. Yeah. But Raffaele Marcello, you have to say, is there any tougher competitor in the field?
Discuss.
Oh, I've said it all. That's not said it all. What more can you say about Marcello?
Well, it's interesting that the Mercedes is, at the moment, just not carving its way through the pack. His is the best placed Mercedes, but it's only in 9th position.
Well, there can be a variety of reasons for that. And again, we would be second-guessing as to what they are. So I think I've stopped second-guessing anymore. I'll just stick to the facts as we have them on screen. Marcello, again, just coming through Speaker's Corner, had a slight advantage over Chavez in the McLaren. And maybe ultimately it's the straight-line performance of the Mercedes that's not quite as good as that of the McLaren.
Mauro Engel's last pit stop is under investigation for the refueling time. That car, and also Janis Fitchia's Porsche in second place, they've been reported to the stewards for the refueling time. If they were under the 43 seconds of the fuel hose being connected, and that can be monitored, obviously, then there is the potential of a penalty. Enrique Chavez is the man with the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race to his name, a 2:18.576, and that McLaren is going really strongly. Bit of a twitch from Marcello there, coming into the Cours Paul Frere, but we might be getting another shuffle of the order if there are penalties heading in the way of number 20 Porsche and 999 the Engel Mercedes.
Well, we can guarantee our audience one thing, David. We will give it to them as soon as we get it.
Absolutely right. So the stewards, of which there are 2 teams, up busy already.
Chavez did have a sniff. He has a sniff. He goes again.
Whoa,
Marcello opened the door. And he's coming in. No, he's not. He just suddenly, I don't know if he was unsighted with the position that Chavez was in, but all of a sudden he just found himself not going forward, waiting for those 2 cars ahead of him to determine what they're going to do. And look at the difference. Overtakes. That was a gift for Chavez. And Marcello isn't looking really. He's not trying. He's not attacking in his return to try and get back on terms with it. Maybe he's realised that this is all I got. I don't have enough performance to really deal with the McLaren and Enrique Chavez.
Just look at him go. I mean, having cleared the Mercedes, he is away.
Oh, absolutely. And no reason why he wouldn't be.
Yeah. They've just put a lap on the pseudonymed Japanese driver Rio in the purple Audi, number 16, in 60th place. Marcello goes by as well. Here's the move looking back from Marcello's car, down to the chicane, and it was a late decision by Chavez, but he went for it.
Yeah, but there's a gap. You could have driven a coach and horses through it. I mean, why did Marcello stay on the left side of the track? He just said, oh, Enrique, look, here's a position. Take it off me. I don't want any more.
Chavez said, thank you very much. Look at that in slow motion as he rides the curb. See that mirror wobbling on the side of the McLaren. Really spectacular stuff. But Chavez is through, Chavez is away, and he's up into 9th place now. McLaren goes ahead of Mercedes. So the cars come through the Cornpool Frere. Let's look at another little squabble. And there is 51 Ferrari, Alessio Romero. That's the race-leading car then, number 51, the red and yellow Ferrari on lap 36 at Spa.
To me, as if there was almost the lightest of contacts between Maxime Martin and Dennis Lind as they came through the first part of the look. BMW's run wide, but he's got track position coming up the hill, and likewise Vietman's going to try and slip through as well. Dennis Lind's not going to give it up to Maxime Martin, and it's a real traffic jam as Lind sort of had to get out of the throttle, but he's got that straight line squirt off the chicane, and that's going to frustrate Vietman. And look behind, is that Dan Harper trying to get up into the show as well?
It is. And Sheldon van der Linde to the outside of Vietman then as they come across the line. Van der Linde tries the outside line. That doesn't work. The BMWs almost tripping over themselves. Dennis Lind, as you would anticipate, racing hard. British GT champion, SRO GT Asia champion a few seasons back as well. And was for a time, of course, a factory driver until he had his dramas here, caught out by the conditions, which haunted him a bit. But Dennis has put that behind him and bounced back and is now, for the private teams, if you like, the go-to driver. And Mark Lemmer couldn't wait to sign him up for British GT, which he won with Leo Machitsky, and then for Spa. Through the traffic they go.
Yeah, but they come, and the track really is not much more than a car width. In reality, the offline gets a load of rubber on it. So up the inside goes Vietman, Sheldon van der Linde, likewise Dan Harper. The three BMWs lining up to see who can get into Brussels first. More importantly, who's going to get out of Brussels. Change position, Dan Harper right on the gearbox of Sheldon van der Linde, having cleared Kenny Habul, Mercedes and Kenny Habul, we mentioned not behind the wheel this weekend. That car is a brand new car brought in to replace, in effect, the chassis that Kenny Habul had the accident in. It's pretty much for the biffer bin, I hear. So down into Fagnes. So it's about being neat and tidy in the first part of it. Then you can release the car here. You can run pretty wide on the exit. Then you've got a short squirt down into Campus. Again, you run the curb at the inside. It's the exit curb you've got to be careful of, because if you go over that green exit, then you'll hit the gravel, and that's not a very good solution. So up the hill through that long pole Frere comb. And here we are back again where we were one lap ago. This time it's Marcus Vietman all over the back of Dennis Lind.
Out of Blanchimont they come then, heading towards the chicane once more. Down through the gears, BMW arrives right onto the tail there. Wriggle their way out of the chicane. Dennis Lind has got himself up through the traffic and moved himself past that Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini, which I think is the Fabrizio Crestani Sam Neri car, and it is. So Neri has dropped back, Lind has gained a place, Martin has gained a place, Vietman up the inside to gain a place, and van der Linde tries to follow him through on the corner on the inside. Couldn't quite do it.
No. I mean, it was nip and tuck coming through La Source. There's a little funny kind of little dip in the middle, which if you can hook your car into it, it gives you good performance. But if you're trying to run around the outside, but look at Sheldon van der Linde all over the back of the Lamborghini, getting the draft in the perfect position to try and make that slingshot as they come up. The Camel straight goes to the right, gradually getting alongside the Lamborghini. He's going to be in position A to take to certainly make the overtake, and Dan Harper likewise trying to find a way to make sure he doesn't get a car between himself and Sheldon van der Linde. The worst thing for Dan Harper is he loses that immediacy, the contact with the 32 down the inside. Good pass, clean overtake, and good driving indeed to allow that, because Sam Neary is not in this race. He's got his own category he's fighting in. So again, good use of the mirrors and good track etiquette.
Absolutely, and Dennis Lynn still has to fight off, doesn't he, the challenge here of Marco Wittmann. So they've worked themselves up into 15th, 16th places. Maxime Martin just up the road ahead as they sweep once more down towards the Piff Path. Good little fight they're enjoying. Still up front, Alessio Rivera, and he's now 5 seconds ahead of Matteo Drudi. So Ferrari leads, Audi leads Porsche. And also, let's not forget, Charlie Fagg is still doing a really good job in that McLaren in 4th place.
He's hanging in there good, man. He's hanging in there good. But another McLaren that's really charging is that of Enrique Chavez, who's now less than a second behind Lawrence Van Thor in the 92 Porsche. So having then cleared, we saw how he got around Marcello. He's made big progress in climbing up the field in currently 8th position.
Enrique Chavez still the man with that fastest lap of the race, to his credit, as this battle comes to the bus stop now. To the inside. Race leader is still Alessio Rivera, ahead of Matteo Drudi. Here is the recovering number 50 Ferrari. Remember, that car had its pit lane fire, so it's fallen down the order quite a bit, but it's fighting back. It's Nico Veroni at the wheel, but from 67th place now, that car, with a lot of work to do. It lost effectively 2 laps.
So yet again, Raffaele Marcello riding on board, then looking down as he runs through Speaker's Corner. And Marcello has got Frank Pereira directly behind him in the Lamborghini, just 0.2 of a second. So potentially, this position that Marcello's in now, 9th, he's just made up that position. But Frank Pereira might feel that I want to take it back off Marcello.
Still intrigued to know what happened to Jordan Pepper in that pit stop. So 65th the car is, a lap down, but he'll be fighting, and with relatively few people having had problems at the moment, making progress depends on your pace, not on others' travails. Again, looking at that graphic, you can see how many places people have made up. 21 places gained by Enrique Chavez now, and others like Ollie Milroy, 31 places the Inception McLaren has gained. He's taken that car over from Frederick Schandorf. 31 places is pretty remarkable.
So we keep watching the progress from the McLaren, and it is, I mean, a stellar stint from Chavez in 7th place. On the run now up into La Source, you've got the Van Thor Porsche directly ahead. That's the, what do you call it, Jello or
Grello?
Grello.
The answer to Jordan Pepper is it was a brake problem altogether from the pits. So you were right. Your armchair quarterback theory was right.
I'll take a compliment any day of the week.
Enrique Chavez, 249 kilometres an hour through Eau Rouge in that McLaren. Marco Wittmann, equally brave in the BMW, 249 clicks through Eau Rouge. Right, so the brake drama sorted for Jordan Pepper. 65th, he's got to make up a lap, but it could happen. It's not easy, but it could happen.
It's just on looking at the BMWs, the Dennis Lind Lamborghini has lost to the 3 charging BMWs as we watch again. It's a stellar drive by Chavez.
And there he puts a lap, picks a place up on the Audi that's running in 56, the 888 car. That's Owen Creed, Jean Gloria, Casper Stevenson and Arthur Rougier. Maxime Martin hustles on, and there Marco Wittmann up the inside, gets his nose chopped off though by Gilles Magnus, who sticks out his elbows. Martin has gained a place, and Magnus is determined not to lose another.
Yeah, Martin's got up to 13th position, but Gilles Magnus, watch, coming down into Puyon. And that was almost side by side with the Porsche and the Mercedes, but wisely sorted it out before they got into the critical part of the corner.
Big flash of the lights there from Pereira, who wants to get up and past Marco Seefried. So the K-Pax Lamborghini wriggles its way now out of the Piff Path. To the inside goes Pereira, lines up, tries to make a move, he's up the curb. Can't do it there, but I think I was going to say he'll get up the inside into the Paul Frere. The Porsche just had the edge out of the corner.
Yeah, just taking that very tight line as the Lamborghini did. He couldn't get on the throttle early enough, whereas the Porsche had the wider exit, the softer exit, so he was able to get the throttle open that little bit earlier, that little bit harder, and that's why we have got what happened. The Lamborghini looking to make a move again if he can get sufficient, but the Ferrari behind, keeping on that red Ferrari as these two, the Porsche and Lamborghini, are battling amongst themselves.
Right, so here's Siegfried, Pereira, and then the lapped Nico Verone Ferrari. And let's have a look at Marciello trying to make his move on the inside. Contact with Marco Siegfried. I am coming through, says Lello, and he's done it. Up the inside line. What would you call that? Ruthless? Forceful? Well, it worked.
Making a point.
Making a point, OK. Through he has gone. So Raffaele Marciello gains the place. There, number 20, now third, Janus Fitcher. Fourth and closing is Kelvin van der Linde. In fifth place is Charlie Fagg, and he's under attack. Look from Lawrence Vanthor. So Vanthor there in the Porsche, taking the lapped Mercedes with him. Lewis Williamson at the wheel of that car now. That's had a time penalty applied to it. And just up the road ahead also, you can see another slightly delayed car, 93, the Sky Tempesta McLaren. Chris Froggatt had his gearbox dramas with earlier on. There is Matthew Drudy, and he's into second spot now. Kelvin van der Linde in the Audi, now second. Third, behind him, the red, white and blue Porsche, Janus Fitcher, who will serve an extra 15 seconds in the pits next time.
To car 2. Track limits infringement 12 times.
Wow, number 2, 12 infringements.
And getting into double figures, I tell you what, again, an outstanding record. One that I would probably doubt we'll see equalled. There is that tyre from the Ferrari, and that's been cut down, whether it's been debris on the racetrack, whether he's run a curb at the wrong angle and just caught a tyre at some of the sharper edges. So it's always been an issue about running curbs around any racetrack. And it's like you drop a wheel off as the edge of the... They've been here, for example, running wide, coming out of Lake Coombe, running very wide, drop a wheel off, that's where you can get yourself a cut-down tyre.
Just to go back to that track limits offence, they are awarded to the car, not individual drivers, so you and your teammates can accrue them between you. When it's your sixth offence, you get a 30-second time penalty at your next pit stop, and then it resets to 0. But on your second set of 6, if you like, that sixth isn't a 30-second penalty, it is a drive-through. Everybody's resets at 6 hours and at 12 and at 18, but key to all of this, do not exceed track limits.
I mean, what can I say? I bang on about it all the time. But what I'm going to
bang on.
What I'm going to bang on about, and I've just lost the... So yes, 51 has now got Robert Schwartzman behind.
Okay.
So Robert Schwartzman impressed me on Thursday in that pre-qualifying session and then in qualifying itself. And it's again a young single-seater star of the future, spending time racing here in GT3 and learning that these cars are not like a low, lightweight single-seater with tons of downforce. These cars have got a load of downforce, believe me, but they're almost double the weight of up the inside. There we go, sweet as a nut.
That was Gilles Magnus through the traffic, taking van der Linde, taking Harper, and then another one that's sort of chipping away. Look in the background, that white Mercedes of Lukas Stolz over the timing line. Mauro Engel's Mercedes, by the way, has also been given a 15-second time penalty for short refuelling.
He'll not do that again.
Well, it's down to the team to connect the hose, but it's another lesson learned. But you think, you know, they're operating at a really high level, many of these teams. That sort of stuff, it's a surprise that it happens.
I mean, look, I don't know what to say. I mean, the team could say it better than me, put it that way.
Yeah, true enough. Right, you're on board now in the Rover BMW. This is the car that Dan Harper is driving, and he's chasing on in behind Sheldon van der Linde, who is also trying to get himself up through the traffic. Van der Linde goes to the outside, comes up then to level with Gilles Magnus, and he's got the job done. Nice pass, that by Sheldon van der Linde, up into 14th spot.
Yeah, had to work hard to make that pass. Gilles Magnus, I've again this year seen him race, and I think he's another young star in this series of the future. So now, what's Dan Harper going to do? He's going to want to find a way through. He doesn't, again, I keep saying it, what Harper needs to do is not let anybody get between his BMW and that red one, number 32, just up ahead. If you lose that momentum and lose the gap, it'll be hard to run it back down again. once he finds a... And look, Gilles Magnus ain't going to be a walk in the park, make no mistake.
Number 25 Audi, Simon Gachet, 32nd place, shares the car with Christopher Mies and Patrick Niederhauser, so it's a surprise it's a long way back. Also 30 seconds for track limit penalties. There is Alessio Rovera's Ferrari. It is back up and running. It is now down where? In about 42nd place. It's Robert Schwarzman at the wheel. Alessio Rovera is with Gemma.
Alessio, a fantastic first in from you, but difficult there with the puncture at the end. What caused it?
Maybe some debris, because everything was okay till the moment. And last 2 laps I had some problems with the rear. I didn't know what was, because first of all I was thinking about the toe, because I didn't have any alarm about the pressure. And then we had this puncture that I didn't see the classification now, but cost us some laps.
And of course it looked very difficult to bring the car in. The handling was crazy, right?
Yeah, the beginning was really difficult, was damp. I have to say I had a good pace. I tried to create a bit of space between me and Matteo Cairoli and Buckler on the rear. So car was okay, a bit difficult to drive in this condition, but still really long.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's still on the lead lap, which is a real save. So 51 Ferrari, it's a long way around the lap, but it is on the lead lap. So a safety car will, of course, bring them back into the mix. But for the moment, they're having to play catch-up. As you look there at Enrique Chavez, still the fastest man in the race thus far, running in 5th place overall and 2nd. Battle is on for 2nd place. Kelvin van der Linde in that Audi. Laurens Vanthoor in the bright green Porsche. Enrique Chavez in the Gulf livery in McLaren behind. They are 10 seconds adrift of Mattia Drudi, but it is game on for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and there's traffic ahead. And actually the big mover, well, it's partly Vanthoor for catching, but look at the way that Chavez has caught both of them. Riding the curb, looking for a gap. 1, 2, 3, 4 back markers to negotiate as they come up towards the timing line. Now, break the beam. Who's got the run in a straight line?
Well, Kelvin van der Linde is going to be the one that's most worried, because he's got 4 cars ahead of him who are going to interfere. And Laurens Vanthoor, yes, up the inside. Spin, and the Ferrari has been rotated. Is that the Samantha Tan car?
It's number 38, isn't it? So that's it is the Tan car, you're right. John Miller is up to Tumlu, Leonard Weiss. My fear there is if it was contact with a pro against a category car, a penalty might come.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it again, to see whether there was contact before the car spun, or did the car spin and then contact around. So, you know, that's an issue that the stewards will certainly look at, and they'll judge it once they've had a good opportunity.
Well, right now,
look at Chavez all over the back of Vanthoor.
Yeah, and Vanthoor's got stuck in the traffic, so for the moment van der Linde has got a bit of breathing space. But Vanthoor on a mission. That car really has come alive in this 2nd hour of the race. But so is Chavez, who goes to the outside line there.
But he's blocked.
He is. Vanthoor, though, needs to get across, because otherwise Chavez will have the line with the inside, and Vanthoor does get across. So van der Linde 2nd, escaping now. And as the Porsche and the McLaren run nose to tail, this is what happened at La Source. Look for Vanthoor on the inside line. I think that was a touch.
There was contact, but, you know, I mean, okay, if you want to be blatant about it, if that's a pro hitting an iron, then that's what happened. But it was the way that the Ferrari cut. Vanthoor, for me, had the ground, and then the Ferrari cut across it. But it's not for me to judge it. That's up to the stewards, and they'll make their judgment. And I will not criticise their final assessment and judgment of that issue.
Isaac Tutumlu Lopez was the man behind the wheel of the spinning Ferrari, however it spun. What is it Jean-Marie Belès said? My decision is the best decision, or something like that.
He made a lot of foolish comments.
But always the best decision, because he said so.
Yes.
Vanthoor on a mission. He's got Chavez right up behind him. And van der Linde, having had these two breathing down his neck a lap and a bit ago, has just been able to buy himself some clear space as he comes up on the inside of the number 64 Hout Mercedes, and he goes through. But Vanthoor has traffic to clear as well.
Yeah, and what Kelvin van der Linde has been fortunate the way the traffic has fallen in his favour, and he's been able to use that traffic to give himself that additional breathing space. And I mean, Chavez has got to be careful, because he's done a Mercedes up alongside him. Okay, has fallen back behind the McLaren. So when you get a situation with 5 cars trying to get into the space of really where one can really get through cleanly, somebody's going to lose out. And in this instance, momentarily, it's been Chavez. but down the inside into Eau Rouge. Be patient, Lawrence Van Thor. Set yourself up to make that pass on the exit. That's the idea. You got it, Lawrence. But again, Chavez back at the races.
Matt Bell in the yellow Mercedes that came oh so close to disaster early on at Eau Rouge. Lets Van Thor go on the inside, and Van Thor takes Enrique Chavez with him, who couldn't quite think about a move. They need to work together really to catch Van der Linde, see if they can jump ahead of the Audi and then squabble.
Yeah, Lawrence Van Thor got a little bit wide in the first part of Le Coum as a consequence of having to the run up into that sequence of corners. So back to as a status quo. We've got the Porsche leading the McLaren in this battle over third place. Up front, Matteo Drudi is pulling away from Kelvin van der Linde. It's now 13.5 seconds. So Drudi running on his own, nobody within a country mile of him is using that effective clearer. In fact, van der Linde's last lap traffic related, as was the case of Van Thor, was a 2:24 against race leader Matteo Drudi's of a 2:22. So that shows you how much time can be lost when you come into a group of cars, particularly in summer like the chicane.
Now in this battle pack, Raffaele Marciello you're looking at, 7th, and he's made progress actually, hasn't he? Because he's cleared Janis Fitcher. I think he's also got himself up past Charlie Fagg in the McLaren. So now Marciello is going to be 5th, I would offer you. 6th is Charlie Fagg, and Janis Fitcher fading a little bit as this stint wears on, although maybe you could say that the car's now at a proper Fitcher pace. It was slightly exalted when Cairoli drove it with his greater Porsche experience early on. This is Charlie Fagg's view.
Yeah, I think in the case of Fitcher, what he had was he got caught up in that melee of cars, so he was a 2:25 last lap, and that's down to traffic. Once he clears that, he'll be back to his normal race pace. And for the McLaren, Charlie Fagg had to back out of it. He's not flat out through there, as one would expect coming up to the end of another stint.
So to the timing line goes Van Thor and Enrique Chavez behind him. That is the fight still on for third place. They're catching.
We're prime time in Portland as the first place Thorns face Kansas City in a championship rematch tonight on CBS Sports Network.
Take a look at this!
They've left us a gift.
I think we misjudged them.
I love horses. We should open the gate.
Let's see what Charlotte thinks.
At CrowdStrike, we monitor trillions of cyber events to detect threats and prevent breaches before they happen to keep your business from becoming history. We stop cyber attacks. We stop breaches. We stop a lot of bad things from happening. CrowdStrike, protection that powers you.
Protect your dog from heartworm disease every month with HeartGuard Plus Chews. Digestive and neurologic side effects have been reported. For a limited time, get up to a 2-month rebate when you buy 12 doses of both HeartGuard Plus Chews and NexGuard Chews from your vet. Terms apply.
OTR Premium Cocktails. You're already making the tacos. Why make the margaritas too? That's cocktailing on a whole OTR level.
Another weekend spent running errands. Hang on, I wonder if I can Instacart some of this stuff. I need to get paint for the deck, more cat treats and litter, and essentials for the week. Wow, Instacart's saving me trips to multiple stores, which means I can actually enjoy my Saturday and finally have time to play catch with the kids. When you want to run errands without running in circles, the world is your cart. Visit Instacart.com or download the app and get free delivery on your first order.
And let yourself be here.
Your dinner party was a hit. Your dishwasher took a hit. Your teen is giving laundry a try. Your dryer left you hung out to dry. Date night with the crush. Your toilet won't flush. Luckily, American Home Shield is there to fix or replace covered appliances and home systems to help you stay on course and budget. Protect what you don't expect. Visit ahs.com and get a free quote today.
Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. Almond Joy's got nuts said something even way better than that. Yes, almond joy is made with almonds and joy.
Fire it up, Randy.
That's how you make it. Like it never even happened.
Serve Pro.
See you tomorrow.
Get breaking news.
Big news coming out of the NFL today.
Highlights and instant reactions.
The largest final round comeback in tour championship history. We're down to the final four.
I just want to take time to analyze greatness.
Talk winners and losers with a guy who's already a big winner. CBS Sports HQ. It's all sports all day long.
You'll see there the safety car joins the racetrack. Lights not on. We're not yet at safety car conditions, but that car will now let people go until it finds the leader. And once the 78 Barwell Lamborghini is gone, then it's got the leading car behind. So 78 Patrick Kuyula goes through, and there the safety car will now pick up the leader. So Kuyula can, on instruction, go. Can't speed up yet because we're under full course yellow. When the safety car puts its lights on instruction from the race director, then the Patrick Kuyula Lamborghini there, the black car ahead, can speed up and everybody else can go around and catch the trail at the very end of the pack.
I mean, it seems to me to be... there's an awful lot more contemporary drivers are having to consider, think about, and give an instruction from the pit lane. You know, in the good old days, we didn't have any of this.
No, you just drove.
You just put the visor down and drove.
So you've got the full course yellow. It'll inevitably be a safety car. If you can throw a full course yellow, let's say for a bit of debris, and a marshal can quickly get that out of the way in a few seconds, so the tyres haven't lost much temperature, you could go straight back to green. But inevitably here, when you've had the full course yellow for a lap or two, you've got to get the safety car out to quicken the pace for the restart.
So the light, I think, I was going to say, they looked like everybody was picking up pace in La Source, but they weren't. That was just an illusion. So everybody creeping along, behaving correctly. Just waiting still for the safety car to switch on its lights. And it's the first time we have seen this new concept, I think, is of whether it's an assist to cars by keeping them back in the overall lead lap, or certainly at this phase there's not too many cars are more than one lap down. You've got to go all the way down to 54th to see anybody who's more than one lap down.
And it's the cars out of the classes, not the overall cars, that are able to do this. There's Valentino Rossi, who is behind the wheel of the 10th placed BMW, and he sits at the regulation 80 kilometres an hour, waiting for safety car conditions. So there is number 188. That is Miguel Ramos at the wheel. Now Enrique Chavez was the driver in that first stint, and is running now in 3rd place overall.
Protect your dog from heartworm disease every month with HeartGuard Plus Chews. Digestive and neurologic side effects have been reported. For a limited time, get up to a 2-month rebate when you buy 12 doses of both HeartGuard Plus Chews and NexGuard Chews from your vet. Terms apply.
All eyes on me, 'cause I make it look easy. Yeah, with the top down, yeah, I make it look breezy. Like ABC, it's just too easy. I make it look easy.
Disasters strike. It's a fact of life in America. As a nation, we prepare, we emerge from the storm, and we get to work. Many of the volunteers of Team Rubicon have served our nation before, and the need here at home brings us to the front lines again. To dig in deep, stare disaster in the face and say, you may knock us down, but you will not break us. This community will rise again, and we will be here to help lift it. We are your disaster response team. We are Team Rubicon.
Give it up for the big hurt, Frank Thomas.
Congratulations, Frank.
Hey, Andy, Doug, you guys look great.
Hey, I feel great, too. Ever since you told me about Nugenix Total T, I'm crushing my workouts.
Thanks to Nugenix, I got more energy, more stamina, feeling years younger.
From the brand that brought you GNC's #1 vitality product and product of the year, Nugenix Total T is our most powerful man-boosting formula ever, because it boosts your free testosterone and your total testosterone. To get your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, text GO to 231231.
I like the competitive edge Nugenix gives me. Hey, me too. Guys over 40, you need Nugenix Total T. and she'll like it too.
Text GO to 231231 for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. That's GO to 231231.
Here's your parachute. Packed it myself.
Certain it's okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are you for imprint certain?
Certainty matters, like the certainty of congratulating coworkers or saying thank you for being a customer with promotional products from 4imprint. Our expert team is dedicated to making your satisfaction a certainty.
Packed it myself.
Land the perfect products at 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
Reasons why, but this is a long lap. If you were at Brands Hatch in a 2.5-mile circuit, it would take half the time it's going to take here. Yeah. So how long could we anticipate this is going to take in terms of the overall scheme of things in this individual stint? Is going to be 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or longer?
I would think longer, actually, because, you know, you've got, at the moment, with only one retirement, you've got to get 69 cars all in a queue. And then you've got to get them to the part of the circuit where the teams can see it, and then to the part of the circuit where wave-by happens, and then you've got to give them a chance to come round to the back of the train. So I would think it is going to add a good couple of laps to each process. We'll see. I mean, as the field shrinks, and it will as the race goes on, it will perhaps become easier, but it's new this year. It may work, it may not work, it might be reviewed. Let's see how it goes.
Seems to me an ideal time to throw one of our highlight packages in.
Well, I know you enjoy them, John, and a lot's happened.
I love them to bits. I know you do.
That was John Watson, everybody. So we're on lap 53. We have had the first couple of hours, effectively, of what's been a dramatic race. 2 hours and 19 minutes we've had so far. We are behind the safety car, so we started behind the safety car and it stayed out after, quite remarkably, Kyle Washington retired from the race before a green flag had flown after crashing behind the safety car and doing so much damage to the Porsche that it was out of the race. It had done 2 laps, neither of which were racing laps. Huge disappointment for the team, and that was that car done. So it was an elongated first overall safety car process, and this our first one in the race, if you like.
Yeah, so we've got another, well, 21 and a half hours of this race to go. And I mean, in fact, the figure that I put on safety car interventions, if that number is achieved and this new process is going to take, you know, a significant amount of time, and you multiply that by my number, it's going to be almost like a full stint.
Yeah, it's going to be long, for sure. We'll get an idea of how it all works now, and our tracker map is showing us that the cars are closing. You see here, the safety car, in a sense, needs to go a bit slower to scoop everybody up, which is almost happening now. But then, although that in turn slightly goes against the purpose of the safety car, to go quickly to let them get the temperature in the tyres. Anyway,
let's
see how it goes.
It might need fine-tuning, but we're in first episode of this new approach, and it'll be an interesting experiment, and hopefully it will provide ultimately, at the end of the day, more entertaining motor racing for both our viewers and the public that have come to Spa-Francorchamps to enjoy this event.
So there is Kevin Estre bouncing through the chicane. So you see on the windscreen, some cars have 3 letters, some have a number. The number is the overall position in which they are. So 7th, 47th, 8th, and the letters, the short code for the driver's name. And that Lumirank display alternates between the position of the car and the short code for the driver. So fans trackside, because I'm led to believe not everybody sits here and does a lap chart. So it's a way for the fans to know who is where and indeed who is driving the car.
Well, most of them will be now cracking up the old Barbie and maybe smashing a few Belgian beer.
Well, can't blame them. Can't blame him, he says jealously. But as they come now down through Eau Rouge, we're on lap number 54. We've almost got everybody in a line, so I would anticipate that on this lap, the wave-by will begin, and that will be, the command will be given round about Blanchimont, as I understand it, so that when they go past the pits, the teams are on their toes, they can have a look. So this time, or this part of the circuit on the next lap, my theory is we'll do wave by. Let's see.
Well, I think the cars that are staying behind the safety car are staying on the left of the track up Kemmel Straight. Those that are going to be waved by are going to go on the right-hand side. So there is, in effect, what it looks like they're coming to a standstill.
Well, I think I've not heard the wave by call be given, but I think this is where it would happen. So the teams are identifying their cars that can unlap themselves. But as I say, I haven't heard the call of wave by, but it has happened seemingly.
The left lane coming up the hill virtually comes to a standstill to let those wave by cars get ahead.
Start wave by, safety car, green lights on.
I think the teams are on the jumps ahead there, but anyway, green lights on the safety car, so wave by. Well, it's happened. I'm not sure it should have happened. Anyway, it had happened before we heard the voice of the race director. But anyway, that's happened now. So we've got the wave by having taken place, and so double check with race control, but I think actually all is good. Alain Ardon giving the instruction to the teams and then gave it to us, as it were.
Yeah, but obviously there's a gap now between the lead wave by cars, so that they're not the group of lead by cars haven't gone as a group together. Wipers going on Dennis Marshall.
Interesting.
Oh, is that going to be another little sort of roll of the dice? A little joker play by nature?
I think so. You just had a round of pit stops, and now the weather conditions might change against what tyres they're on. Of course, what has also served here, here come more wave bys. So through they come. I was going to say, what is happening is that with people getting out of the queue, so the lap traffic unlaps, what that does, of course, is bring together all those lead lap cars once more. So instead of having 4 back markers between you and your opponent, the 2 cars are together.
And the one who's really lost out most will be Dennis Marshall, who had a 6.6 second advantage over a Nicky team, and he's now got 0 advantage.
I mean, sometimes you have time advantage and a traffic advantage. You've got neither.
Absolutely. I mean, that's that car, that 40 Audi has been absolutely stellar all the way through. Matteo Drudi fulfilled my expectations of him, and Dennis Marshall unquestionably will be able to match what Matteo Drudi did.
Dennis Marshall, very honest driver as well. He was doing a grand job in the IGTC round in Abu Dhabi at the end of last year in the Attempto Audi. He dropped it and fessed up, came and faced the media and said, my fault, really sorry. But he didn't hide away, didn't sulk, didn't invent a reason, held his hands up, and I think he gained quite a lot of respect for the way that he handled himself.
And he didn't have a PR person alongside him, with a prepared script to say exactly what he was told to say.
Does that happen in some categories?
I wouldn't know. I'm out of motor racing these days. It's been a long time since I've had anybody
wave by completed, wave by completed. Pit lane open, pit lane open.
Right, the wave by is done. That means
safety
the pit
car, green lights off,
opens.
yellow lights on.
Green lights off the safety car. So we are now under natural safety car conditions. Pit lane is back open, and in comes one of the Ferraris, and we will have at least one more lap of safety car lap. Over the timing line they come. So the race leaders coming over the line, 1 or 2 heading for the pit lane. So the cars then making their way, still behind the safety car. And this now lap 55, and the field at a quicker pace now, getting ready for that restart. And down through Eau Rouge, the pack turns. So this is the car leading the race right now. It is Dennis Marshall at the wheel, and Matteo Drudi having done a great job behind the wheel of that car. This is where we stand then, with just about 2.5 hours done of the Spa 24 Hours. Audi number 40 leads the way, Dennis Marshall at the wheel. The race is going to carry on, of course, all the way to this time tomorrow, but for now, to our CBS viewers, it's goodbye. Join us again tomorrow. Bye for now.